All right, welcome. Episode 74 starting. I'm joined, I haven't seen you in a while.
Been a while.
Been a little bit. So
Been
I'm
busy.
joined by former United States Marine Corps Corporal Sean Haggard. So it kind of pains me to have the flag up, 2 podcasts in a row. So like I said, it's better to have them. If I can't have the Army one up, I guess I'll settle for the Marine Corps one. Better than having the Navy Air Force one up. So we'll start off with
we have the best uniforms and the best flag, right?
I'm liking the new Army uniforms. I'm liking the old.
We'll see if they stick to it.
Yeah, that's true.
They bounce around quite a bit.
A lot of changing. So we'll start off with, like we always start off the episodes with a quote. Before I do that, we have another guest. You can't see him. I almost forgot about him. We're joined by Shadow. We'll talk more about him. He's over here laying down.
He's thrilled to be here.
Yeah, he's looking.
I tricked him. I thought he was going to go out and play today.
So we'll talk more about Sean's story. But yeah, Shadow is one of his. He's actually falling asleep now over here. It's great. He's like,
he knows what's
awesome.
up.
So,
he knows.
But yeah, we have 2 guests. First time we've had a dog in here. So welcome, Shadow. Do you really care? He's falling asleep on us, literally. So we'll start off the quote. This is an unknown quote, but I heard it before. It is friendship and something beyond friendship that binds the Marine Corps together. So as much as I like to make fun of the Marine Corps, I still think you guys have the tightest group of, the most pride of any of the branches, I think.
Yeah, almost cult-like, they would say.
I didn't want to say that, but I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, because it's been a while since we asked that question. Like, what do you think? What do you think binds you guys together so much? What do you joking about being a cult, but where does that esprit de corps come from? You think?
Well, it's even in a lot of the merchandise you see, right? Uncle Sam's Misguided Children. I feel like even in the other branches, when we're kind of seen as like those wild kids that no one wants to associate with because we're all out of control or aggressive and stuff like that. I mean, the Marines have always been like, we've set ourselves apart as being like, it's the words of like, when people view the Marine Corps, we are like, I wouldn't say the stepson, the redheaded stepchild or anything like that, but we take pride in, getting secondhand gear and not getting the best stuff, but the way we utilize it and the way we trust our Marines to have, more responsibilities because we're the few, the proud. But like, you'll see, like me, I was a Lance Corporal in my tours in Iraq, but I was a fire team leader. So I had a staff sergeant's job. Fire team leader, a VIC commander was usually like, I remember when the Army came to replace, I think it was the 101 or the 82nd that came to relieve us. And I was training a staff sergeant to be a VIC commander and what we did in the AO and stuff like that. So, but I was just a Lance Corporal. Now, I think the Marine Corps sees this, well, we only have to pay an E3 to do the same job that a staff sergeant does. But we put that responsibility in our fire teams because we know that, I think it was like during World War II, pretty quick, you could lose your officers and staff pieces pretty quick in war. And they said, well, we need our lower enlisted to be ready to take over at any moment. And I think they've hold true to that. Throughout all the generations and years in Marines, they know that when fighting kicks off, Murphy's Law comes into effect, and we need every Marine to know their job and the job above them and the job above that. So, we take a lot of pride in that the responsibility we get the lower enlisted. And I think that's why we have that bond and brotherhood, because we know where our history comes from when it comes to like having to step up.
Yeah, and I think I've seen like that same type of pride. Like if you were like the 82nd or 101st, I see like in the Army, like specific units maybe, but like you guys are a lot smaller. So I feel like that, just shrinks down to what you guys, you all are tight. And then what other branch was created in a tavern, right? I mean,
it's really tribal, I would say, almost more than anything. I'd say more than not, like the call's fun to say, but we are very tribal when we're around each other. It's like when you see Marines on a fob or anything like that, they're all huddled together, kind of like back in hunter-gatherer days, like probably acting about the same too.
But don't be fooled. I always love that you said the misguided youth, but all my interactions mostly with Marines are a lot sharper than a lot of people. It's one of those like hidden secrets that it is a smaller branch. It requires you to be a lot more competent in your job. And I've seen like some really squared away Marines. I hate to say that. I like to make fun of the Marines all the time, but yeah, it's definitely
there's a lot of guys that had the same background in high school and middle school. I mean, kids that kind of like suffered paying attention, a little rowdy in school. And it seems like the Marine Corps had a good way of punching you in the face and telling you to grow up. It actually happened to me in boot camp. I remember I was in Parris Island, I go further back on that with like having ADHD and like problems like paying attention. And I remember being in Parris Island and I don't know, we were on the line doing that, dressed right, dressed up, or whatever. They were checking our nails and all that stuff, and they were teaching us something, telling what we're going to do that day. And I was like looking around, looking at other people because, you know, squirrel. I was like looking around the whole room, seeing other people's reactions and faces. And I just remember getting blasted in the face. And I like went back in my rack. My drill instructor like was like over top of me, yelling at me. And I actually, you know, to this day, I respected him the most because he was an actually infantry guy. And he said it kind of more like not like a jerk or anything like that. He said more like a father figure. He's like, you need to grow up because you're going to be in Iraq in less than a year. And he's like, you're going to fucking die because you're not paying attention. I always notice you not paying attention to what we're saying. He's like, you're infantry. You're going to be in Iraq in less than a year. So grow up or you're going to fucking die. And that really rang home to me. And that's what kind of like forced me to like go break through the ADHD barrier. And like, I'd see myself starting to float off and I'd like, oh, there's a fist coming. Like, you know, like it wasn't really that, but it was like, I started taking life a lot more seriously because he was right. I was in Iraq in like in about a year I was in Iraq. So that was kind of one of those things where I'm not saying you need to go around punching kids in the face, but there is that, you know, kind of that like guidance from somebody that knows what they're talking about and the seriousness from hearing it from them. And if it would have been kind of like just a person, you know, hitting you to hit you or just, you know, because they have the authority to mess with you, they can. This came from, I could tell from his tone and the way he was talking to me that it came from a place of caring. Like he cared a lot about like his like infantry guys. The infantry recruits like were more special to him because he had been through like invasion of Afghanistan, all that kind of stuff. So he was kind of like taking more of the infantry guys under his wing. And I noticed that even though he probably picked on me the most in my unit, like it was because he knew where I was going.
Right. Yeah. That's and then what I love is always like we've had the loudest Marine, I think, on, do you know Woot from Delaware? Chris Woot, and he's on there already yachting it over there. All the Marines are already semper fi and raw and everything. So it's always Chris was like Woot. I know what calls him Chris, but it's Woot. And he was on a while back. Definitely what I would consider my what I envision all Marines to be. But no, it's awesome to have you. We're glad to have you on. Let's talk about, let's like rewind back. We talked a little bit about, you know, being at Paris Island. So let's talk about grew up in the Columbus area. Yeah.
Well, I think I started off growing up in Whitehall. And then I think about the second or third grade, my family moved us to Worthington. And then I went to Wilson Hill, Kilbourne Middle School, Thomas Worthington. And I ended up doing the career centers for 2 years, my junior and senior at Delaware JVS for law enforcement. Okay. So, but grew up pretty much predominantly in the Worthington area.
So what was young Sean like?
You know, it was like transitioning from like, I remember coming from Whitehall to Thomas Worthington, and it was like a little bit more harder and weirder for me to fit into some of the Worthington kids because I was the new kid and they've all known each other since probably preschool and stuff like that. And I think like finding my own way, you know, in school because I had trouble focusing because of ADHD and I had to deal with being in a whole new area and not knowing any kids. And then like that obviously didn't help with my focusing in school. So that's something I was on Ritalin since like kindergarten. And funny thing about that, when I was in 8th grade is when 9/11 happened. And I was in Spanish class when the Trade Center got hit. And I remember, because before that, I think I was thinking about being like a vet tech or doing like something. I remember going to Shadow, like a veterinary tech like place. And then 8th grade, the 9/11 happened. And I was like, oh, I want to join the military. I want to go fight because we got attacked. And my whole family's been in the military since like the Revolutionary War. So I was like, well, you know, that I always felt like that was my responsibility to like join in a time of war. And I didn't really care about the politics. I don't even think I knew the politics at the time or anything like that. All I knew is that we declared war on someone and I was someone in America that fights. So I was like, well, if just like my grandpa and all of them that fought, and I was like, well, this is my generation, my time to fight. So I remember in 8th grade going down to the Marine Corps recruiting station. I think it was in Graceland. It was somewhere on South High Street. It was like the old shopping center place there. And I went down there to meet with the recruiters just to get some information. And I was already like 6'3", 230 by then. Like I was already like pretty tall, pretty big. So I went in there and I was telling the recruiters like, well, I think I want to join the Marines. And he's like, where do you want to sign? And it was like, he's like, when did you graduate high school? I was like, well, I start high school next year. And he's like, oh, they're like, what the fuck? It's like, oh, you're big as fuck. And and I remember like, well, do you have any, I don't know if I should say this on a podcast, but they were like, you couldn't be on at that time. You couldn't be on Ritalin or anything like that
Yeah,
with
yeah.
ADHD, which is weird because I think every Marine has ADHD. I think the majority of people that are.
I mean, you heard him say that for the first time. Yeah, I'm not going to deny that.
I think most 03s or 11s, like most infantry guys, are probably ADHD. Like from my experience. So I remember I went cold turkey. Like they told me that could be a disqualifier, and I remember going home to my parents, were like, I'm done. I'm not taking this medicine ever again. They said it won't let me join the military. I was like, I'm done. And my mom was very, she's like, all right. It's your
So how did
choice.
that affect you though? Like, you're on it for, do you remember when you first started taking the medication?
Like kindergarten.
So what was it like, going cold turkey on that?
I didn't realize this till later, till like after maybe even the Marines, but like I bombed freshman and sophomore year in Thomas. Like I went cold turkey pretty much right after that. Like, I mean, literally after the recruiters, in 8th grade, I stopped taking it. And I just remember, and it was pretty close to going to high school.
Yeah.
And when I got to, I just remember like failing everything, like not paying attention. Everything was so much more complicated. I'd see words and math and all that stuff in front of me. And it was like, what am I doing here? Like, I can't pay attention to save my life. And I was like, I didn't go through any withdrawal things or anything like that. I just went straight cold turkey, and was like, yeah, no wonder you couldn't concentrate in school and like you did so bad in grades. So I actually ended up going to CBIT, like Thomas being the career-based intervention program, because my grades kind of dipped. And that's when I started going the career center route. And I had to take summer school classes every year just to make up for the freshman, sophomore year of the classes I didn't do well in. And by the time it came to graduate, this is actually kind of cool. When it came time to graduate in 2006, and I pre-enlisted in the Marine Corps at 17. I was going to the pool leave functions at the recruiting station since 8th grade. When I showed up, it's like, well, you can't join, but you can come work out with us. I worked out at the pool leave functions all the way from basically 8th grade until I left. It's like 4 years at the recruiting station, just working out and getting ready to go. And because I did that, when it came time to graduate Thomas Worthington, they're like, you don't have any gym credits. And I was like, what do I need gym for? I was like, I play rugby and I was playing sports and stuff like that. I was like, you telling me I can't graduate because I don't have gym class? I was like, yeah, you need gym credits. And I was like, I leave like July 16th for Marine Corps. And they knew this was the best route for me and like what I wanted to do. Everyone knew I wanted to be a Marine and do this. So they actually worked it out with the Marine Corps and the recruiting station, where all those pulley functions I did, all those weekends, every weekend, I never missed one weekend. I would go work out with the Marines. They actually wrote it up, like all the stuff I did, like all the calisthenics, all the like events I did for them, all this kind of stuff. They wrote it up and they submitted it to Thomas Worthington, and they said, this is better than any gym class we've seen. So they're like,
I hope so.
Thomas Worthington gave me my gym credits from the Marine Corps. Actually, I was probably like the first kid to ever do that. Like, they're like, yeah, it's like, good, there's your gym credits. I actually got that from working out the recruiting station. So I was able to leave, and I graduated Thomas Worthington in 2006, and I was gone in July.
So going back to those days, you decide you want to do this. You see 9/11 like a lot of guys. By the way to make me feel even older than I feel, 8th grade. But that happens. Like you're not taking the medication. You're seeing some stuff that's not working out for you academically. Was there ever a thought to be like, hey, I'm going to still go back to this, or were you just kind of like, I'm laser focused on joining the Marine Corps?
I was laser. I was like I was your typical like listening to Marine Corps cadence in my car. Like probably I was the big nerd. No, because like when I was going to those weekend classes, the guys I was PTing with and doing all those functions with, they were coming and going and then going to war and coming back and then coming back to pulley functions to help out. So there was guys that I was PTing and like doing stuff with that were like invasion, like going to Iraq, first initial invasion, all these guys, and they'd come back and like, Haggard, what are you still doing here? You're not gonna leave yet? It's like, I gotta graduate high school, and this is
like I'm 13, dude.
Yeah,
this
is like sophomore year. I'm still sophomore year in high school, and like I was having guys go and then come back as infantry, and then go to war and come back, and I was just felt like, I was like burning up inside to go, because it was like I'm seeing all these guys I know doing it, becoming Marines, and then going over there and coming back, and I'm just like still waiting to go. It drove me insane waiting. I think that kind of added to like, my tenaciousness. When it was like, let's go. I've been waiting for this for so long, to get in there and go join the Marine Corps, especially because like these were guys that I'd PT with for like a year or two, and then like they were my friends, and then like they'd get to go, and it's kind of like you're waiting for your chance to go.
Yeah. Any push by your family to say, hey, Sean, let's get back on the medication and get grades going? Nothing.
They never,
Yeah.
my parents never, they knew like if I wanted something and I was like, if I decided it, they knew I'm like, my mom always called me like a bulldog. Like, just she says my focus. And if I had something in my head, I just won't let it go. I'll never let it. Like she knew once I had this in my head, I wasn't going to give it up. So there was, also it was a wartime, especially pre-enlisting at 17, you have to get your parents to sign. They didn't hesitate, but they were very nervous.
Yeah.
And they wanted to talk to a recruiter. I think my recruiter was Sergeant Diaz. And I just remember, only thing I remember about that meeting was that my dad's name is John Wayne Haggard. So he was like, John Wayne Haggard. He's like, that's fucking awesome.
That's like the greatest name ever there.
Yeah. So, but other than that, they knew, especially growing up, that the military, I mean, I idolized my grandpa.
Right.
His name was Richard Haggard, and he was in the Korean War, and he was at Frozen Chosen. He was Army tanks. So he'd tell me all his tank stories and being up there on the hills and the mountains and fighting the Chinese and the North Koreans. So, like, as a kid, you just want to hear all his stories and sit with him. And I remember he had all these, in his bedroom, he had all these rifles above his wall that were like old Winchesters and stuff like that. And I always would bug him to like take it down and tell me stories and stuff. So they kind of knew this was the route I was going to take.
Yeah. So you said you saw the guys that were like going off and coming back. Did you see any change in those guys when they, when they're working out with you and then going away and then coming back from deployments? Were you seeing any changes in those guys?
Yeah, it's pretty.
Coming back?
I definitely noticed, the seriousness when they came back. Like, they kind of knew what they were about to go into and go over there, but like you could tell, like their demeanor was like they're all business now. Yeah. It definitely, the adolescence of them was gone every time they came back, which added to like when you think about joining the military, you're like, as soon as I graduate boot camp, I'm a badass. You know what I mean? People always think like, all right, I'm gonna join the Marines and now I'm a fucking badass. But it's like there's a process. Like you don't just become like Marine infantry, like what you picture in movies and all that kind of stuff. There's a grinding process, and there's it's a gauntlet, and like you become that through the trial and tribulations of what the infantry will put you through. And it's like you think you'll just like graduate and all of a sudden martial arts and you're an awesome shot, but there's just countless hours, and like your infantry will, like, I think the most like hardcore training I got was from like my seniors were the Fallujah vets, the guys that pushed through Fallujah, the Fan Fury, like the guys that did the house to house fighting. Those were my seniors, and they were just like, their intensity was, I've never seen anyone match it yet. All those guys, and there's like the way they trained us, they took their job very seriously, making sure we were ready to go over there, and living up to their expectations ended up being hard, like because like they expected a lot out of you, and their methods could be kind of brutal, the way they wanted you to be ready.
Yeah, I can imagine. So like I think I know the answer, but like what made you, was your mind set on 0311, or were you any other options of what you were going to enlist at, or were you kind of locked into becoming an infantry grunt?
I had only two things I thought about, and I only considered tanks for a second because my grandpa. Right. I thought, well, tanks are pretty badass. It'd be cool to like drive around a tank and blow stuff up. But I ended up just choosing infantry because I don't know. I knew them, like when I thought like I wanted to go over there with the best, and I wanted to leave no doubt in like what I did and stuff like that. So I was always like, I'm gonna go Marine Corps Infantry because I always wanted to be who I wanted to be as a kid. And I was like, so. And I also thought that, like, obviously, they'll waste $100,000 on a tank. They won't waste a big missile on like just me infantry guys. So I feel like I could, on the battlefield, I could probably like be a lesser target than like the tanks. That's like the priority target in combat. So I was like, I'll probably be safer. Just they're not gonna waste all that money on me walking around, But yeah, I was always like pretty much dead set on infantry. Actually, about that, I was like, I got like a 55 on the ASVAB or something like that. And I was like, did I make it? Am I going to be able to get infantry? And they're like, yeah, you're going to, we got you.
Like, you're breathing, you got 2 arms and 2 legs, you're in, buddy.
Yeah. And I was like, I just make sure you're going to make sure I get infantry right. And they're like, don't worry, man. We'll make sure you get it. Yeah.
They're like, to be honest with you, it's about all you're doing. So no.
Yeah.
So what else? Anything else to talk about growing up? Any brothers, sisters?
I have a sister, my sister, Emily.
That's pretty close.
Yeah, she lives in Powell, and she has 2 of my nieces, and I have a daughter. So it's awesome that we have, you know, basically those 3 girls are almost the same age. And actually my daughter is going to my niece Jillian's soccer game right now.
Oh, nice.
So it's fun that we get to all be around in this area and, you know, doing things together, you know, and I try to do that more and more lately, of like being at family dinners, sharing food. Yeah, I don't know. There's that book Tribe by Sebastian Junger. I really kind of took that book to heart, that homecoming and belonging thing. And it talked about like things we're missing in society. And a lot of it is like those being around your family, those dinners, bringing food, sharing gifts, like,
Yeah.
you know, those, it gives you all those like really deep things that I think a lot of people are missing nowadays, you know?
Yeah. The tribal stuff is pretty interesting when you just talk about, you know, being initiated by the older men in the tribe. I think the initiation process is, you know, we've all been searching for that for a long time. You know, I didn't find that till about 2 years ago. I searched, you know, all over for that. But yeah, that, you know, the old tribal way is, you know, that's how we started, right? So
I forget what
makes a lot of sense.
author, I mean, it may have been Sebastian, but like you said, the like, you know, going into manhood and like that trial that most people had to go through, like the hunter-gatherer times and stuff like that. Man, I think we all find a way to do that in our own way. Like everyone has their own path to like go through that route of like fire that they can say, oh, I'm a man now and stuff like that. I wasn't thinking about that. My whole thing was like, we're at war. I'm a fighting age man. I'm gonna go fight. So.
Yeah. The tribal thing hits me out too, because I have all my boys live with us still. So I feel like they're in that phase, like a 24-year-old and a 23-year-old and a 20-year-old. They're supposed to be like in the fuck you dad phase and leaving, and, you know, like leaving the tribe a little bit, and, you know, earning their keep or whatever, you know, just being, you know, started their own, you know, bloodline or whatever we want to call it. But it's just, yeah, that whole thing, I think society now is kind of changing that, you know what I mean? It's like become very normal for, you know, 25-year-olds, 26-year-olds, you know, even older to be staying in your house. And I feel like the tribal part is like, you know, it's okay to be a tribe, but at some point, you know, you have the fuck you phase with your dad. So, you know, you leave that core tribe, and, you know, you don't have like incestual type stuff and all this kind of stuff. But but the tribe part is a big thing. I think the big part about is just that like group of men, right? To be able to like initiate and tell you, and like, you know, wise elders to kind of show you and lead you the way, and, or, you know, smack you upside the head when you're messing up, you know what I mean? So it's I haven't read that book. I got me peeked into it. Yeah.
Audio is good. I have the audio version and I have the actual physical copy, but I definitely recommend listening to it. There's even stuff in there when I was raising my daughter, kind of like how that self-soothing thing where people put the baby in the other room, but like for like thousands of years, everyone was in like one room, one hut, you know, and he was like talking about, you have to read the book, but like basically how like that, like a baby crying itself and realizing it's okay to be in another room by itself, the trauma that causes, because, you know, a baby cries because they can't defend themselves. They can't protect themselves. So when you put them down on the ground to forage and the baby starts crying, like, oh yeah, you're over here, pick you up so they don't leave you out there. And it's like when a baby is like in the room with you and they know you're there, they go right to bed. They sleep like a baby because they feel protected and safe. Yeah. So there's like I always was curious about the studies behind, like, you know, I never let my daughter like sleep in another room when she was a baby. I wanted her to know I was right there.
Yeah, so we did the different rooms. So my wife wouldn't agree with you at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like I remember, I think it was my oldest Ben was crying, and I'm like, you gotta go get him. And she's like, that baby's fed. He's got a diaper. He'll be fine. And like 5 minutes later, he cried. But I mean, I see that mentality too. But I just saw a video that was pretty moving of a dad sitting there and the kid having a temper tantrum, like a young baby, like probably maybe it was like a year and a half or so, just, you know, just having a total meltdown. And the dad just sat there and held space for him and let him get it out. And like when the kid was done, just turned to dad, gave him a big hug, and they gave a hug and was okay. I feel like sometimes, you know, when the things I have now as I look at society is like, are just like growing up, like, you know, kids, it's a proven thing when like a kid falls down, right? They look at you to see if it's okay. You know, that's something that's in it. I feel like there's a huge rush now to just be like, rush to the kid, you know, kid falls down, you know.
Then the only difference with that would be like they know you're there in the presence.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're still like they see you there. You're not babying them.
Yeah.
Like, get up, come on, wipe it off. You'll be fine. You'll be okay. Different than like, I don't know where anyone's at. I'm by myself. I think though, same thing though, not babying your kid, being tough. Like my daughter, she falls down. I'm like, get up. I don't overreact. I'm like, get up. You're fine. Don't worry about it. She's tough as nails now. So.
Yeah, because that's when they start. Yeah, because they're looking at like I you know, like it's something, you know, that I've, you know, heard many times. But like if you think about it, And if you like look at it and look for it again, you're like, oh my God, when they fall, they literally looked at you, and they're not even crying until you're like, they see your face, and then they just want to know how bad it is.
Exactly.
But I just imagine what it'd be like if you could have a kid like that and just keep your cool, you know, like they do fall and like split their head open. You're just like, you're going to be fine. Like what kind of like resilient human being you could raise, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's the tribal thing. I got to check that book out. I've heard of it, but I haven't really read it yet.
Tribe by Sebastian Younger. It's really good.
Check it out. So growing up, you and sister close?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a typical brother sister thing. I probably terrorize her just as much as she terrorized me, you know, but I mean, I think it's a pretty typical brother sister relationship. I mean, I think we're a lot closer now that, you know, as we get older and we realize we're the next generation of family. It's, you know, that responsibility of making sure that it's not really about us anymore. It's about like giving the younger ones a good experience, which in turn is actually an awesome experience for us because you get to like relive the things that you find joys in and share that with them.
So the dream comes true. You're old, you graduate, head to Paris Island, South Carolina.
Yep.
All these things you hope for. When was your oh shit moment at Paris Island? Like, this is oh shit, I got myself into this.
I mean, I had so many stories and guys come back. I was kind of like, I almost felt what happened was I feel like I overdid it, PTing the Marines and going to all those bully functions. I kind of like, it's like, man, I've already been doing all this hazing stuff for like 4 years with the recruits. It's like, I almost feel like the experience was kind of like, I almost had too much of like that recruit boot camp stuff, like in that doing that police stuff. So I was kind of like, let's get this over with. So like, I know what you guys are doing in the process, but I was so highlighted in my boot camp in my platoon because I was like the second tallest guy.
Right.
So, and like, I have this problem where you can see the emotions on my face, and I'll do everything you say, push-ups. I'm going to listen to you no matter what, but like, you can see me talking shit in my face, and I can't really prevent that. That even affects me like sometimes in law enforcement where it's like they're yelling at me and you can see the like, I don't give a fuck. Like, and that was like highlighted me very bad. So like
they don't play poker, buddy.
No, I can't play poker. And like my drill sir says, like my name, Haggard, screaming Haggard just was soothing to his voice to other names. So it felt better to scream than anyone else's. So I was actually probably the most highlighted in my unit. Yeah. So I went from, just to highlight, like talk on that, I went from 233 pounds to 173. So I went all the way down to 170, and I had like veins in my face, and I lost so much weight so fast that I was signing up to fight people in the pugil sticks and wrestling. I was like, oh, I'm probably about 200 pounds now. I was 170.
Yeah.
And, you know, even after boot camp, I still had like this body dysmorphia thing where I thought I was like 230. But like, since I lost it so fast, I was like 180, 190. I was like 190 through my first year or two in the Marine Corps, just from all the running and infantry stuff. You know, it took me, I think I didn't get back up to 220 until like my last year in the Marines.
Yeah, I think it was funny because when I went to military college, so there was the first year was a lot of rhymes with hazing was going on. A lot of hazing was going on. So, you know, a lot of it was food deprivation. And God, I think I lost a ton of weight really fast. Remember that? It was like, I felt like, but yeah, you always felt like you stayed big, but you're just like, oh my God, like you see pictures, you're like, you know, holy cow. Well, I don't look very healthy. You know,
my mom saw me at graduation and she's there bawling her eyes out. And she's like, did they even feed you? And I was like, I ate 3 square meals a day and had dessert. Like, and I still like just, my body got, from all the hate, all the work training got pretty messed up.
Yeah, that's a good, I wonder like when all that stuff that happens with it, you know, how healthy it is for you, but it's easy to bounce back from it, but, you know, get rid of all the stuff you don't need. Sometimes I wish I was like in the middle of that, you know, at my age now, but when I look back and I see pictures, I'm like, none of us look very healthy. So, so you finish basic training, boot camp, head to, what's your infantry school? Yeah. School infantry.
SOI, yeah.
Still there at, that's at Lejeune, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's still in Lejeune. Well, no, it's at Geiger.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
So it's right there. I mean, there's like Stone Bay, Geiger, and like Lejeune and stuff like that. And that's where School of Infantry is, right next door. It's right. It's literally the same plot of land, pretty much, except for Stone Bay. It's a little island, but it's right next door to Lejeune.
So what was School of Infantry like for you?
It was actually, for me, it was kind of like a little bit more laid back instead of being so highlighted in boot camp. The guys, it was interesting because the guys that were training us were like infantry guys, and they just came back, like they did their 2 tours and they're kind of doing that. They re-enlisted probably and got like sent to SOI or something like that. They were actually trying to be kind of chill. Like they would let us dip and smoke cigarettes. Like they were being pretty laid back until you lost the privilege, obviously, by fucking around too much. But for most part, they did a pretty good job of giving you like big boy rules. Like you guys are gonna be going your infantry unit soon. He's like, but we're gonna be nailing this training stuff pretty hard and getting you guys ready to go. Because like they would bring guys from deployments to us to like speak and tell us the new, like, because they were constantly gathering new information from fighting in Iraq,
Right.
and the urban warfare was such a new thing, like from dealing with all the city stuff, that they were coming back and just telling us how the tactics are trained, like pretty much changing, you know.
Yeah, I think we'll get to that. Cause I think you were in a battalion that did that. So you finished School of Infantry, head to 1-8.
Yep, 1-8 Marines.
Gonna Camp Lejeune. So
that was
you don't leave very far from a certain area. But what were your thoughts? Did you want to stay on the East Coast? Did you want to go West Coast? What was your thoughts on?
You know, I didn't really like care where they sent me. I figured it was all the destiny of it. Like wherever I go, you know, when you're thinking about it, you just want to earn the title and get there and be with your unit. Like I was more excited. It was kind of like, oh, what unit am I going to get and what destination am I going to get? You know, I think everyone wants to go to like Japan or like Hawaii, somewhere far off and distant to add to the mystique of it all. But when they said Lejeune, I was like, oh, well, at least I can drive home if I need to on the weekends. But I was more like, what's it going to be like being in your unit?
Yeah. So what's it like showing up and, you know, what year is this? 2006. Yeah. So, you know, we're fused into 2 wars. You're heading to 1-8, which is, I think they'd already deployed by then. And they were deployed in 04 too. I think 04, right?
Yeah, 03, 04.
Yeah.
And like they did like you know, in between then they were doing like Muse and like Katrina and stuff. So they had done like some other like mini ones before the next 2 Iraq, but you know, obviously the Fallujah vets and all of them were still there, and they went to like Katrina to help out and help with the disaster down there. So I think they were just kind of getting back from all that kind of stuff too.
So you show up as a young private to a unit of like infantrymen that have deployed already. What's that like showing up to that?
I mean, jokingly, I would say it's like showing up to like prison and like, you know what I mean? It's like you're kind of getting put into the bay with everyone there. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, you got the catwalks.
No one has ever said that, but that's a good analogy. Yeah.
It was because they were all lined up on the catwalks, like first deck, second deck, 3 deck, and they're kind of all like just staring down, ready to like get at you. So I remember like the first time they like emptied out their trash cans onto like the place out in front of you, and it was like cigarette butts, nasty shit, and they're like, all right, we're gonna do a police call. I'm like, what the fuck? They just threw all that shit out. I was like, and they're like, get online. And they're just trying to see who doesn't listen and who wants to buck the system and fight. And, you know, so that was like all you used to see, like first, second, third deck throwing all their trash and cigarette stuff out. And you're just like, all right, this is going to be different than SOI. This is going to be like, you know, they're going to see who you are and if you'll listen, and like, you know, who's going to be the guy that says, fuck you guys, I'm not going to do what you say. And like, there's hundreds of us and you're going to listen.
So how many guys showed up at the same time to the 1-8?
We had a big one. We had a big drop. I mean, they were doing pretty big School of Infantry drops. I mean, of my guys, I think we had like 30 to 40.
So do you feel like there's a power number, or are you still just outnumbered? It doesn't matter. You're outnumbered, right?
Yeah, you're outnumbered. Like there's in one barracks, there's like 350 plus. And and also the command is not going to back you up. They went to war with all those guys.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
so like you could fight back all you want, and then you're going to get ninja punched by like command. You know what I mean? But those guys had no problem fighting you. If you want to go, like they always said, like if you want to go to the tree line, we can go to the tree line. And they'll go back there with you. And the staff sergeant would excuse you from like formations if you wanted to go, like handle it.
There he is. You can see. You want to get on the camera? He's there. You can see him. Everybody there. You were asleep when we were talking about you before. Oh, now you want to be my friend. I love it. He's like, hey, we're right here.
Come here.
Oh. Wow, that's a miracle they didn't grab one of those wires though.
You don't even let me do that.
He knows that. I mean, he knew it. Like, I mean, if a human goes across, so they knock things down. But he's alive. So you guys saw their shadow. He's here. He's like wanting to go by dad. That's awesome. Yeah. So there's a lot of times when you join the military, there's like different phases you get in your career where you like feel like, okay, now I can consider myself like I got cred or whatever. So when do you think you were like finally like, hey, I'm a Marine?
You could see when I started talking about the Marines and like being in the infantry, like he can smell, like he started coming over. He knows when I'm getting like not riled up, but he knows.
Yeah, he feels the stuff. And
he's like, because I always tell people it's like, like why do dogs like you'll have someone come over and you're like, oh, my dog doesn't like that person. Yeah, and it's like, well, it's not really that they don't like that person. It's that like say like a giant poodle like go to seizures, right? Yeah. They can smell the lactic acid and the muscles getting tense. Like dogs can smell the acid buildup in your muscles, like, and that's like fight or flight, right? So, when someone's about to have a seizure or something like that, dogs can smell that oncoming. So they can give the person advanced warning by like pawing at them or giving a clue like, hey, you're about to have a seizure. So, they'll put their mouthpiece in, they'll get ready to handle that. And so dogs can smell it coming before we can know it's coming. So like same thing with like people. It's like dogs can smell like you get intense. Like if you're walking down the street and you see a guy that's shady and all of a sudden you start tensing up, your dog could smell you that you were calm 1 second, now you're tensing up, and they don't know that's like fight or flight. So they're kind of like, well, you were fine 1 second ago, but now you're tense. Fuck that person. Yeah. And that's why dogs can react like when girls are having like when they're nervous around someone, or just like they know their dog reacts to other dogs, and now you see another dog coming and you start tensing up because your dog's going to take off, he's going to start pulling. So it's like a vicious cycle. We were going down in like a hole, and dogs like, oh, there's that dog, and oh, he's making you tense, oh, screw that dog, you know what I mean? So be able to break that cycle of like setting your dog off, the only way we can really do that is through communication and talking to them and drills and like the way we work dogs. But like going back to what you're saying, I just wanted, that's why he came over. That's why he came over.
Have it that he's you're talking about something, you're getting a little,
it's not like amped up, but there's like those old feelings and emotions,
exactly.
Like talking about that stuff. And I'm just like, and I'll go into like my ideology between helping veterans and stuff like that later on. But he can smell me like telling these stories and like reliving them a little bit, So you
think he's just come over to comfort you a little bit and make sure you're okay? Or?
Yeah, he's coming over. He can smell me like like he can smell or my voice and stuff like that. He can tell, and he comes over here. And that's like if I'm out at events or doing stuff, I'll start throwing the ball or just petting him and stuff like that, because he knows when I'm getting all riled up or something like that. Not like I'm getting riled up now, but he can tell.
No, I get it. No, I'm
like going from like a different like being chill and calm, and then like sharing stories and telling stuff.
Yeah, because he was, like you can't say on camera, but he was sitting over there like falling asleep in the beginning, and then we did start talking. When you started talking, he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna head over to Dad." Yeah,
but that's why dogs are just so amazing. Yeah. It's like they're so like shadow. There's no one more in tune with me than him. Like he knows it. Like I feel like he knows everything about me, and it's just like that. Just like shows you like how much he like is in tune with me. And now most companion dogs are with veterans. That's why like they're so special to them, because they know that love is there for them. For each other. Yeah.
It's surprising. He's got on the camera. We're good so people know he's here. It's awesome. But but I was asking like, the question that before Shadow stole the show over there. So when did you finally feel like you earned the title of Marine? Like, was it when you took it at 1-8, or like, when did you see it? When did you feel like you were like, okay, I've earned, the title of Marine? I know there's the graduation, that kind of stuff, but like,
well, the infantry just they kind of tell you like you ain't shit until you go on your first deployment. Like, they just, it's just straight up like you don't rate, and you can't even have a haircut. Like they don't even let you have a haircut. They shave your head like before you go on your deployment. You don't even rate to have hair. So like, and we're already like a year into being a Marine, but to them, so you're nothing to us until you go on your first deployment. So like coming back from our first deployment from Ramadi, that's when, the seniors would like shake your hand, buy you a beer. Like they had coolers of beer waiting for us when we got back.
So what's that like though? I mean, you've done all these things, you've accomplished a lot of things for if you look at what people accomplish in the world, like, so you've done all these things, but you go there and you're in a unit where like they could give a shit about you. It feels like that. I mean, they really don't, but that's just like kind of the initiation into it. What's that feel like? There's got to be some type of feeling like, is this right? Or is this like, okay, I'm just going to deal with it? Like, what are you thinking at that time?
I just like, I've always had like a real deep love for history. Like I love Dan Carlin's podcasts, and like in general, I was always like, I was like me and my mom, we loved watching History Channel together and like all these medieval stuff. And, you know, I guess like my mindset's always been like, and like, I'm just fascinated with like, I don't know, what's it called, when the study of humans and stuff like that. But like, I was like, if it's no different than like, I was like, what was it like to be in the Roman army? What was it like to be, you know, when the Picts and the Celts were fighting or something like that? It's like, when did like to belong to an organization like the Marine Corps? I mean, I bet it was no different being in like a Roman legion or something like that. When you're the new guy showing up, it's like, how do you earn, you know, your place among other men that have already been there and have already been to combat? And I was just really curious to see what it would be like. So for me, it's like, this is the journey, and it's like, whatever you got to do it to be accepted. So everything my seniors did, hazing wise, you know, training us, getting us ready, and, you know, they would love to fuck with us and make us do stupid shit, but like they cared a lot about us. Like when we were getting ready to leave, they were like all there. They're like saying, I can't wait to see you guys get back. And during the training, like you could tell they were like, how serious they were, is like, they were like, they didn't show a lot of emotions, but they like, you could tell they cared so much about us. Like they cared about, they felt like it was like, they were obviously boots at one point.
Yeah.
And now that they were the seniors, you could tell they felt that responsibility to make sure we were ready. So I think every Marine that gets back from the first deployment, and you see your new guys waiting there for you to carry your sea bags and stuff like that, you're just like, oh, now it's my turn to carry on the legacy and the training to these new guys. And there is like a lot of weight on your shoulders to not fail somebody and fail them.
Yeah.
You know?
So like looking now, you know, with it winding down, like what do you think it looks like now? This is interesting because you grew up in the wartime Marine Corps. Like what do you think it looks like now if you're, you know, a 0311 that shows up to 18, like 20 of you? What do you think that's like for those guys to get, you know, anointed as Marines in that unit? I mean, there's no deployments in sight. Like what's that look like now for the piece? Like what do you think that looks like now?
Well, like I've met some guys actually at jiu-jitsu. I was like shocked to find another guy from 18. He was actually, I think, at the Abbey Gate and stuff like that. He was deployed there at that time. And they're just like, the guys are still solid. Like they're still training hard. You know, there's always that war on the horizon, and you could tell their mindset is like, they're ready to roll. And I can just tell, I bet they're just chomping at the bits to like go on their deployments and prove themselves. And they always prove this up because they're out there doing those missions, training with other forces, you know, training with the I think they went to Finland recently in Norway, and they're training with those guys, getting experience ready for that next, you know, the war is going to be different than what we went through. It's going to be more like Ukraine, you know, that like, I think they're training with the Finland and Norway to get ready for that, like that tree environment, the mountains and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't think any American doesn't think we're done with wars.
Yeah.
And
Never. I think that's
and these guys are hard. Like they're ready to go. I've met some of the 18 guys and like, you know, I could tell by meeting them that they're ready to fight. And I had no doubts that these guys will always like stand up to, I mean, like Marines have always done. We've always, when it comes time to shine, like they always step forward. And, you know, like 8 Marines had like a t-shirt that was like a claymore and it said "Front towards enemy." And I was like made fun of them at the time, but now that's it was a pretty cool shirt.
Pretty cool t-shirt.
Yeah.
Like, go on record. But yeah, I just, you know, I agree, you know, cause I came in the Army and you know, peacetime. So it was like, you know, you looked at the Desert Storm vets, and then you had a handful of like the Vietnam guys who were still kicking around. But yeah, and then now, you know, it's interesting when you see something like in the news or you see somebody in uniform that's like a captain or like a E6 and there's no combat patch, and you're like, holy crap, you kind of forget that, you know, we haven't been at war for a little while. And yeah, just, you know, I have it the same way as that, you know, there's always the people that are ready to go.
They're like, I just see them as like they're your little brothers. Like it's almost like, you know, you want to go with them. Like if anything happened, you just want to like be like, you know, they're getting ready, and you know, like these guys, but it's like you obviously were the older generation now, but you know, 18 now, like those guys are killing it, like doing great job training. They look tough. You know, they did a great job in Afghanistan when they were there, even there at the Abbey Gate. Those guys were like, they did an exemplary job. You know, I felt like they were let down. Yeah. But it wasn't the Marines that let them down. You'll never see like those Marines let the command down, but it sucks when you like some of our command, I forget, I'm trying to remember who was saying stuff about the whole Abbey stuff, but like it's like when you have commanders like kind of like don't bring it home for us for all the hard work we did over there. It's like you never see that happen with the lower enlisted Marines. Like they always come through at the end and like do their job, you know.
So let's go to that first deployment. Head over to Ramadi. How long were you over there for?
7 months.
Yeah,
we got there in September of 2007. So
what was that like for you?
You know, it was just everything you've always been looking forward to. And like, it's like, you know, watching, you know, you watch movies growing up and you're like, what's it going to be like for your story? And, you know, like all your senses are on fire, the smell of burning tires, like the heat hitting you. And it's almost like hard to like picture the whole thing because you had so many like senses coming through. But we had took like 2-5 had taken over a house in the middle of Ramadi, and it was at like basically where there was a river and it was like a choke point in the middle of the city, and it was just a house they took over. They kicked the guys out, and we took it over. And you know, our mission was basically like to choke the streets out, like basically be out there so much that the enemy can't do anything.
Yeah, I think you guys rolled into that counterinsurgency road here, like the first battalion to really roll that out, the whole counterinsurgency. And
one goes in, another unit goes out. We never let, I mean, they just basically ran us to the dirt. Like they said, we're going to be out there nonstop and we're going to choke the city so they can't do anything. So it was just a lot of long, like 16-hour days, you know, going through the streets and trying to find the problem childs and like flush them out. And you know, I think that was like their main goal throughout most. I don't know about the other AOs, but I know ours was like, don't let them breathe, stay out there, because like 2-5 and all those guys, they did a really good job clearing most of it out. And it was just our job to basically train up the Iraqi police, because no one else was taking out the Iraqi police until we got there. And we were the first ones to take them on patrol with us. And basically, you guys got to take over once we start getting ready to leave. And we were all nervous having these Iraqi police guys with us, because at the time they were shooting people in the back sometimes. Yeah. So, you know, we try to keep them in front of us a lot of times. But yeah, it was basically like the biggest thing I like looking back on it is like, you know, they trained us, the Fallujah vets, all of them trained us for the urban house to house, you know, moving through the city, pushing. And it's like no one told us that we were going to be like training police officers. And like basically like, I'm not a police officer. Like, why are you having you know, an infantry Marine train Iraqi police and taking these guys on patrol with us and trusting? Like, it's like you're giving a kid in high school an AK-47 and telling them to get behind you. And it's like, you know, you wouldn't want to stand behind these guys. You wouldn't want to be standing next to these guys on a shooting range. You know, a lot of them, but here they are with machine guns in a truck behind you with a machine gun, or like right next to you with a rifle. And you wouldn't even want them on the range with you half the time. So we had to train these guys up. And so, well, going from like, we had the search and destroy mission, obviously, but then we also had standing up a police department and army, like responsibility. And it's like, I always felt like that would have been a better job for like military police to be like training other police officers. Like you're telling these infantry guys that aren't really warm and friendly to like start like handing out food and like heaters and all this stuff, and also bringing the Iraqi police with us and standing them up. And it's like, I always felt like our job would have been better suited in like Afghanistan. And like, don't send the infantry to be like setting up cities. Like, I always felt like our job was more of like, you know, assault, like push through cities, take them over, and then like the army or like military police come in, they hold the city. So it was a little frustrating that, you know, you could tell the AOs and the commanders were, I felt like, putting a lot of responsibility on like 19-year-olds like me to be like training like civilian police officers when our mindset was never trained for that, you know? Yeah. So I always felt like, you know, that would have been a better job for like a different, like a different branch, you know, someone else than us. But we did it, and we did an awesome job, like standing them up. It was just, for me, it's like, they were always like one of our guys, like at a checkpoint, shot a guy in the neck because they were like a guy coming. They're at a bridge, and there was a car coming and it wouldn't stop. So, you know, they did the whole flags, pop, flare, pen, flare, shot around the dirt. And then one of our dudes put one through the windshield. And it's like, they tried to like fry him for like a year or two. Like it's like they're holding us to like Chicago or Columbus police standards. Oh, Shadow. Low seal.
Real quick.
Sorry about
We'll
that.
try
Sits.
to adjust the way it's looking to you. Sorry about that. We survived. We survived.
Yeah, that leash wrapped around the camera.
I was like, uh-oh. That's the first we've had there. Usually it's Josh that does that, but Shadow and Josh are going to get along really well. But yeah, but so, you know, those all the kind of stuff you're saying, somebody
it's like they're holding us to a standard that's not wartime. And it's like, you know, if you send men to war, you decide to send infantry to war, it's like, then send the infantry to war and don't hold these expectations that, you know, politicians are going to hold to you. And I think that's where a lot of veterans in the Iraq War and stuff like that got real jaded, is because you're holding us to a standard that you should never put infantry into. It's like, we're infantry. We take cities, we take out the enemy. And it's like, you want us to also, you know, have this other, like, you're holding these expectations on us that, you know, oh, you get into a firefight, and if you kill some guys and then you want to investigate it with CID or whatever comes out there and they want to investigate the whole thing, it's like, well, then don't send us to war then. Like, I understand like bad shoots and stuff like that, or like, you know, something happened maybe that was unjustified. Awesome. But like, when you got things that are happening in wartime, I feel like politicians got really involved in 07, 08, and 09. That's when you really saw the politicians like really like trying, because I feel like they had a problem wrapping it up. And they were just trying to get Iraq to be like tame so that they could show the country, like, look, Iraq's doing great. We've had no instances. Like, we had a suicide bombing. It was a suicide vest bombing. And this actually led from another incident. I don't know if my buddy wants me to talk about it, but basically we had a Marine kill in Iraq. Basically, so what happened was there's two, we had a guy on post, and we had another guy, Iraqi police on post. So we're sharing fobs almost, and there's two posts. One's Iraqi police and one is us. And one of our guys noticed that there was a cell phone light coming from the tower. You're not supposed to be on your cell phone or have electronics up there and stuff like that. So they see it like basically the tower was glowing, right? So he goes down the stairs, goes up it, sees the Iraqi dude on his phone, tells him to get off it, goes back down, go to his post. Again, it happens again. He goes back down there. This time he takes the phone. And he basically, you know, I don't know, he had a like confrontation up there. He like, don't get the fuck off your phone. As he was coming back down the stairs, this dude tried to stab him in the back of the neck with like a knife. So he feels his vest get hit in the back in the collar area, and he turns around and the dude stabs him again. So he takes out his K-bar and like swings it and gets the dude in the throat and then like finishes him, right? So that was an Iraqi police officer. And like his dad was the colonel of that police station. So this starts like a huge standoff. And this is like the first big incident when we were in Ramadi that kind of upheavaled things. Basically, they think everything's going great. And then this incident, and now the Iraqi police and us are like standing off. Whatever drama and all that stuff. Basically, they had to remove that platoon out, move another platoon to that fob. You know, the colonel's dad's like claimed like a blood right or something like that. So I tell that story to go to the next part with the suicide, the vest incident. So basically, from what I understood from like the other guys, is that this was a retaliation from the son being killed, and they did like an ambush with a suicide, like two suicide vests and like a couple of attackers, and we ended up losing one of our Marines to like basically a guy came out, he tackled him, they're fighting on the street, and then he throws him on the ground, Glove throws him on the ground, and then the vest blows. So, and then the, you know, choppers come in and get the rest in the house and stuff like that. And they were so mad about like what happened when our dude got that one dude, because the AO got out of control and it looked bad for the press, that they tried to fry my one buddy for like 2 years on that. And then the other guys, they were kind of mad at our infantry unit for that. Like they were kind of pissed off because they felt like we stirred the pot with that whole incident in the city. And then like, I feel like that I'm not the only infantry unit that had that kind of story where, you know, they're seeing the area more as politics than they are like what we were doing as infantry Marines over there, you know?
Yeah. You know, I think if you go to, you know, the older I get, the more you see stuff like that. You know, I think you go back to, you know, the war that my father fought, and, you know, the rules of engagement, all that kind of stuff is, you know, has always been in place. and a lot of people aren't happy with it. I still have it that if you took the gloves off and let people do what they want to do, it would be different. But unfortunately, that's not what, what our government or society is really ready for. So, that's one thing I think I kind of look back at the wars and I feel like, World War II is, maybe Korean War, but a little bit where now, like, you talk to a Vietnam veteran, they'll tell you some of the same stories that, an Afghani veteran will tell you, or some of those in Iraq. So, I just have it now that I just doing my job and doing the best I could at the time. And
we haven't had I guess they say we've had like conflicts, but they would say like the last war is like World War II, the Korean War conflict still ongoing, and then like Vietnam's conflict, same thing. It's like we entered into all these wars without the same mindset as we did with World War I and II and these other wars. Like we kind of we're half in, half out with what we wanted to do. And it's like they kind of entered into it without, how do you wrap this up and what does victory look like? And is it like trying to stand these countries up and rebuild from scratch? It's like, I always feel like our government was like not prepared to end it or wrap it up. And I feel like that kind of went on our shoulders over there when we were in Iraq, because you could tell it's like any incident that we got into or had, it was like scrutinized. And it's like that was, and I felt like that started around 2007, like 8. I felt like that's when, because after they went through and they defeated, the army and they had that reinsurgence and all that stuff, it's kind of like, okay, we need to stabilize this area. It's like, but you're always going to have chaos, especially when other countries can send other fighters in to create that chaos. It's like you just giving them a battlefield to do it. Yeah. So they'll just show up from most of the time it was from other countries coming in, and the Iraqi people just wanted to get on with their lives mostly. But then you'd have people coming in, trying to grab a child and be like, hey, go put this vest on. If you push this button, fireworks will go off. Go say hi to them. And the kid would go tell his dad and run, scream. And then or they'd grab a father and be like, if you don't do this, we're going to kill you and your family. So it's it was rarely even the locals. It was mostly people coming in. And so they used Iraq as their staging point to fuck with us.
Yeah. As I get older, I just, you have to think about why we really went and did what we did. And, I'm okay with that. I just, like I said, I signed up for it. I did my job. But as I get older, I start to think more about we need to be very careful where we send our nation's sons and daughters, and make sure we're going for the right thing. Because I do have, as I've gotten older, where I agree with you too. What's the real intention of it? Is the intention really to take out the enemy, or is it to, like you said, putting people in and doing jobs? It's not new. I think if you talk to a lot of veterans, and people don't realize it, it's a lot of people were going and doing things that they never thought they were doing, nation building stuff. It's holy crap. I mean, I found myself going out and taking, doing, nation building stuff. And you're just I've never been trained in, I've never seen a CA guy and a PSYOPs guy together. I've never, did all this kind of stuff they want me to do. But all of a sudden it was what are we doing? What's our real thing? So there's a lot of stuff that I see that goes into when you send the military over there to, take over a nation, and then, you bring other organizations in. It's kind of a balance. I've seen, you've seen over the past 20 some years of the stories of what, infantry Marines were doing, or you look at military policemen that became prison guards, or, artillery, Ohio is a big one on that. You have Ohio artillery units have never fired rounds over there, and they've been deploying over to Afghanistan numerous times. So it is an interesting.
We didn't do
war
any training or discussions about training Iraqi police force before we went to Ramadi. It was all house to house, urban warfare, Fallujah vets, teaching what they taught, and we get over there and they're like, "Here's this mission. This is what we need you to also do this one, but we need you to do this." And it's there was no discussion about, I don't remember of us taking a civilian force with us or standing them up. And it's so we're I was 19 when I first got to Ramadi, just 19 years old, came and buy a beer, and they're like, "Hey, I need you to take these 3-4 guys and show them how to be local police officers and how to patrol their area and set up these cops and all this stuff." It's that should have been somewhere in the workup, instead of just here's a tire, bayonet it 20 times, and here's a room, kick it in and clear the room out. It's well, if that was going to be our mission, you should just send us to Afghanistan. We were ready to roll for that. But then you send us to Ramadi to basically hold the city, patrol it to death, and then also stand up this police force at the same time. It's and then you're mad when there's altercations between these Iraqi police and us. We didn't do any of that local culture, training at the Iraqi police stuff until like our second tour.
Yeah.
After they realized what we did the first tour.
Yeah, we messed up.
Yeah, they learned it all from the first tour.
Yeah, but I think the interesting thing about both those wars, I think a lot of, like I said, a lot of those units, all of us, we changed our mission and what we were trained to do, and I think that's what makes our military, what it is, that we're able to adjust, and it's not what we wanted to do, but it is pretty effective. Like if you whether it's a Marine or airman or a soldier, you give them a task and they're going to figure it out. Unfortunately, a lot of times it does come with a steep learning curve, right? You're 19 years old. You don't know what you don't know. And you're thrust into something, but I'm glad you guys figured it out. So when you're over there, 19 years old, you brought it up, you're 19 years old, you can't buy a beer, can't do a lot of stuff. Like, what was the biggest struggle for you, other than like you're talking about the overall, tactics and what your mission was? What was the hardest thing for Sean? Like personally?
I didn't really have time to think on the first tour. I was basically just trying to stay in the positive mindset, try to I was always like goofing around with my guys and like trying to keep their morale up and stuff like that. I always like messing, like making sure my guys are having a good time and talking with them. So for me, it was always about, not getting complacent and also not being like jaded, while you're over there getting like disgruntled or anything like that, or getting too angry. I think it was basically like realizing what's my, how can I guess I'm trying to put this into words. I wanted to make sure that my mindset stayed sharp, but I didn't lose track of what we were doing over there and stuff like that. And like you said, realizing our goal of what are we doing in this area? How can we be effective? And then not letting the politics and our command get in the way of that. Because it's hard when you got all these commanders getting frustrated because we're causing incidences, we're causing issues for them that they had to answer to, and it's well, that's their fucking problem.
Yeah, but you're 19 years old. I mean, what?
I'm 19. Yeah, you know what I mean, there'd be times that you were scared. You kind of, nervous, all that's going on. So when do you think that stuff hit you? You said, you're pretty, on point when you were in Ramadi the first time. When did you realize that you maybe changed a little bit after that deployment? When you got back, or anytime during the deployment? Or? It was definitely when I got back, being home, coming back to Ohio for those little vacations we had and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, being the aggression, just always ready to fight. For any, imagine one just getting fucked with by your seniors all the time. I'm not gonna let some college kid talk shit to me. I get hazed and tortured here in the barracks all the time by dudes I respect, and then you have some college kid want to talk shit in a bar, and you're like, I'll knock you out. You just wanted to fight right then and there, right? So it's learning my anger is starting to become a real problem. And not only that, just with family, it's you get this mindset where people will be like, hey, do you want something to drink? Do you want to eat? No, I'm okay. I'm good. Are you sure? I got this thing in the fridge. You want this? And you're in your head, you're I'm fucking said I was good. Stop fucking talking to me. But you just kept saying no, I'm good. Everything's fine. But in your head, I'm why am I so fucking angry in my head? They're just asking me if I want something to drink. But in my head, I'm just shut the fuck up.
And when did you start realize that was a problem?
Right. I mean, pretty close to then with my, cause it'd be I'm trying to, I don't know what was wrong with my head, but it was I guess because you're always amped up in the infantry, you're always ready to go. You're they make you super aggressive because you have to be super aggressive to do that job. So it's you'd be trying to relax, but then your head's going a million miles per hour, and people will be trying to engage with you, and you just don't want to engage at that time. You just kind of in your head, you just want a little bit of peace. And when people are just trying to constantly try to talk to you, you're just your mind's basically screaming, shut the fuck up. And then obviously I love my family and I love those people. So I was oh wait, there's something, you got fucking anger issues. You got some problems, because in your head you're screaming, but you're just trying to have a nice conversation with them.
Is that something you could talk about to other Marines at the time?
When we're out in the Marines, it was always it was status quo. We're just fucking each other. It was hanging out with your friends. It was when you got away from them and you're isolated that I found the anger.
No, I know, but did you guys ever say man, when I go home, I just
that wasn't until years later.
Yeah.
It wasn't until after the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
During the Marine Corps, it was this kind of I think it was more coming home, partying, trying to let loose, have a good time. And then it was so stressful back at the infantry unit because training's starting up again, and they're holding you to this high standard. So when you got home, it was just drink, party, try to see your family. And then so there was no time to think about that kind of stuff. The anger stuff was after the fact, I think. It's I'm not around any of my buddies anymore, and I don't really have a mission. I have nothing to train for. So my brain still wants to train and have a goal. So I didn't have a goal. So it was kind of just the animosity was just sitting there stirring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So you go back to Iraq again a couple of years later in 2009, 21 years old. Does you start feeling any where here I'm back and again?
Well, I was a fire team. They made me a fire team leader that time, so it was a little different because I felt I had 4 or 5 guys under me, and then I had the terp, the translator in my Vic. So I was just. It wasn't don't fuck this up. It wasn't that kind of mindset, but it was the responsibility of we trust you have this big ass MRAP in this vehicle, and you're in charge of the 3rd vehicle, and you got all these guys in there that look up to you, and and it was just you're just trying to not
fuck up.
It's
okay.
It's okay
to say not fuck up.
Yeah, not fuck up. You just don't want to make a mistake. So I took it very seriously because they gave you this responsibility because they trust you, and everything went great with those guys, and my team was really good. My leadership is a little different than other guys. I never really fucked with my guys too much. I gave a lot of my guys responsibilities. I'd be why don't you on training missions? I'd be why don't you take us out, and I want to see how you would do this. And if something happens to me, you'll be taking over this. So I gave my new guys a lot more respect and responsibilities because I wanted to see what they would do. So I think they appreciated me a little bit more. And I never asked you. I actually had 2 senior Marines in my fire team, which is hard to deal with when you got other senior guys trying to listen to you. So I think, I had 2 guys in my fire team, and it was more all right, guys, this is what we need to do. They want us to go out tonight at 3 a.m. We got to hit this place, whatever. And Fort Pickett, we're doing training ops and stuff like that. And, you get the senior guys going man, fuck that, man, this is fucking bullshit. I was yeah, but we're going anyways. Yeah. We just grab your shit, let's go. And it's the way you had to motivate them to do stuff is doing that as equals, I guess you'd say, since we both went on the same Ramadi deployment, trying to find ways to motivate them to actually give a fuck, to train and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And by the time we got to Iraq, everything went pretty smoothly.
Yeah. So for me, I kind of equate to, you said it pretty well. I mean, you don't want to mess up or fuck up. 21 years old, I think that's hard for people to understand, the responsibility you have. I look back and I pretended when I was a young second lieutenant that, I was in charge of all these people that, I had it all together. I was, but a part of me was terrified about it because you have so much responsibility. And, I struggle with that now when I look at my kids. Sometimes I find myself when I get frustrated with them, a lot of it is man, I look at, my 22-year-old who him and I had a little bit of a tiff yesterday. It's at that point I was a platoon leader, in that, but there's a part of me that's you'll never know what it's like, but then I'm also God damn, I kind of respect that at 22 years old, he can still be a 22-year-old because I feel that's the quick thing about the military, 19 for you guys, 22 years old, there's a lot of responsibility. And if you screw up, it's not it could be very minor, or it could be someone getting killed.
You're in the Marines and you're in wartime. You're in the combat zone.
Yeah.
It's you fuck up. It's kind of almost dishonor your family. You know what I mean? It's you do something there. It's almost in the history books. They write that shit down. It'll be in so it's not just I don't want to fuck up, but you fuck up bad enough, you could be in the history books for fucking up.
Yeah. So for me, I don't know how you dealt with it. But for me at that time, I was, I had a big mask on. I asked nothing bothered me. And that's why I think I started, the drinking to numb a little bit, right? When you're nervous about something, or just this outward behavior or some type of crazy thing to act like I wasn't, nervous about this, especially when, I went over later on. So at that time, you're 21 years old, a part of you had to be scared, right?
I wasn't, I don't the leadership wise or just in
no, just for you. I mean, you're a 21-year-old in a combat zone. I mean,
I just always in my head, I was just as I and then the departure line, I was just fuck it. I mean, I was just inside my head, I was I'm ready to roll. We've done our thing. He's at that time, we haven't done anything that was like gave you warning signs that these guys might we might do something fucking stupid. So at this point, I was just kind of like with my other fire team leaders, like when we were stepping off line, it was just like, yeah, fuck it. Let's just see what happens. At this point, it's all you can really do is like, we're going to do the job anyways. You're going out there. There's nothing you can do to like stop it. So it's just like, well, if shit goes south, fuck it. Let's just see we'll just adapt and overcome and we'll fucking make it happen, and that's why I just held true to that. I was like, I always was proud of our training in 1-8. 1-8's always done a good job. Our seniors were awesome. Like our guys really took over and they're serious about it. I feel like I felt like by the time we got there, we were pretty ready to go. Anything that could have fucking happened, I feel like, would have been standard for the time in the Marine Corps and the military or any kind of combat operation. If somewhere to fuck up, it's like, well, we'll do our best and push through it,
So you come back from there, had to another unit, do some weapon. You're in charge of where you're running the combat marksman coach stuff, doing that a little bit.
Yeah, the last once I got back from my second tour, they moved me to Stone Bay to be a rifle coach. So I was an expert rifleman, and so I was still like an E3 for this whole 2 tours. So I had good PFT scores, expert rifleman, fire team leader, and just the way the Marine Corps and the cutting scores are, it's like I got corporal basically right when I got out, boom, corporal.
Yeah.
So the Marine Corps, picking up rank and stuff like that is almost impossible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So being at the rifle coach was kind of awesome because I got to shoot as much as I want. There'd be guys on the line. We were just trying to teach other units how to shoot, and it's free ammo for days. Yeah. So that was kind of cool to shoot all the time.
It's something that's something you said, you're talking about, if you're listening, 2 deployments to Iraq, this is all in a period between, join the military, 2 deployments, and then get out. This is all from a 4-year period. So that's I think a lot of, I like to bring that up because it can sound like you're talking about a long drawn out career. That's a lot to happen from the age of 18 to 22, right?
Right.
A lot of things. It's a pretty important age, and I kind of think about I try to talk about that, make sure it's in perspective. We're not talking about a 35-year-old guy here. It's 18 to 22. So you decided to get out of the Marine Corps.
Yep.
What was the reason behind that?
It was either I do 20 years or it's get the other ball rolling, it's I did the 4 years, I did my 2 tours, and it was either I stay. If I did 4 more years, then you might as well stay in for the rest, get the 20 retirement. So I was like, well, if I'm not gonna do 20, then I should probably start thinking about what else I want to do in life. So
you touched on it earlier. I asked this question pretty often, is so you leave the military. What was the hardest part about leaving the military? Losing your job, losing your identity, losing your friends. What was the hardest part for Sean?
Yeah, going from the barracks, being around so many dudes that you're so close with, and then all of a sudden being in an apartment by yourself, you just go to work and you start having a couple of beers, start drinking, and I was like, I can't do this. It's I'm gonna have to re-enlist or get into something. And I was just sitting in this apartment. I was living in the Continent, in the village, the Continent over in Worthington, and it was just, you get so lonely, you're not there's so much activity in the barracks. There's so many people talking with you. You got roommates, there's guys always bouncing in and out of your room wanting to do stuff. And, you have training missions coming up and all these things you got to do. Then you go from that to 0 activity. And I think your brain can't de-escalate that fast.
So you're saying for you, it was the people.
Yeah, it's obviously the people, and just there's no goal or mission. There's nothing to look forward to really. And then so it's kind of how can I feel that mindset? They make me feel at home. And I just never felt at home for a while there until I got into jiu-jitsu. And once I got into jiu-jitsu was when I finally felt at home. Because I had something to train for, something to look forward to. I had guys that were, it's when we're going to jiu-jitsu tournaments, it's we're both training and fighting together to get ready to fight these other people. And that filled that niche that I had in the infantry because we're a bunch of guys, fire team, trained together, going to go somewhere. So being on the mats at Hells and Gracie was that filled a void I had that was missing.
Yeah. So you come, so you like I said, 18 to 22, 23 years old now, you're back at home. How much did those 4 years affect your mental health, you think, looking back on it?
I mean, there was definitely I went back and forth on that thought because I always thought how it prepared me as a police officer and going forward, because you have 350 individuals, so many personalities, so many people from different walks in life. You have people from Queens, New York, all the way down to Alabama and Georgia. So it's like being around all those type of personalities, you got to learn to live with all these guys.
Yeah.
And they come from all walks of life, gangs, or they come from like middle of nowhere country boys, So being able to get along, talk with them, you can talk to one guy one way, you can't talk to them the same the other way. So it's like now as a police officer, like I can relate with so many people, and I can de-escalate so fast because I've had so much interactions with different personalities. You had to live with them for 4 years. Even if you got in a fist fight with them and beat the crap out of each other, I'll see you in a couple hours.
Yeah.
You can't go. You're stuck with that person for 4 years. So you had to learn how to get over it and like squash like beef and problems. So I definitely felt like it, like communication wise and dealing with people, the infantry gave me like something different.
But what about your mental health? You said you came back, you're feeling lost. You're a little isolated. You're drinking probably. You've got a short fuse. Like, do you feel like that? When did you start realizing, oh, wow, this has really had an effect on me? A negative effect, not necessarily. It's been all positive.
I mean, just from like getting into fights in those bars, and they were getting kind of dangerous, like just like a short fuse. And like I would talk shit. I mean, a lot of people in college or people like that, they're quick to push you and like yell and scream in your face. But like our mindset was like fight immediately. So it's like if they were like someone pushed me, I'd just deck you right in the face. And I wanted to be a police officer, so I saw that as like, oh, I'm gonna get a charge and I'm gonna ruin my life. Like, that's when I realized, like when I got into a bar fight, and it was pretty bad, a pretty big brawl, and I was like, oh, I'm never gonna be a police officer because you're gonna get an assault charge. Like you got in this fight, and it's like I need to grow up, and like this anger problem and this like way of dealing with things is not going to be the way for me if I want to be a police officer. So it's like I felt like it was getting to a point where you're going to get in trouble enough where you're going to not have a career field anymore that you want to get into.
And so how long before the time you got out of the Marine Corps before you become a police officer?
A year.
Okay.
About a year.
All right.
Yeah, I went through like the Delaware Police Academy in 2010, but I ended up going to the Columbus Police Academy in 2017, 18. But like I was working for like Ohio Health, as Ohio Health police officer at Grant Hospital for like a year. And then I got picked up by the DOD for Defense Logistics Agency. And that was more like a federal police job. And I was also a reserve Worthington police officer. I joined that in 2013. In 2012 or 13, I joined Worthington Police as a reserve. So I was doing like the federal DOD thing, and I was also doing like reserve Worthington Police. And that's kind of when I got into the dog training, was from the DOD,
So you're the owner, biting toy, all kinds of things for your company, Maltec K9. So when did you start that?
So when I was working for Defense Logistics Agency, they have this thing where it's like they get like evaluated. It's like a military base, here in Ohio. They get evaluated every so years for like their strength of like defense or whatever they call it, security. And they failed a couple areas where it's like, you don't have any bomb dogs. And that's a requirement for the size of base, how many military units, like 15,000 government employees. So the chief was like, like they failed the aspect of not having bomb dogs. So I was like, I would love to look into that for us if I could research into getting us bomb dog, because I want to be a canine handler. I thought that'd be really cool. Yeah. So he was like, go ahead. He's like, if you can find us, if you can build us or find us a way to get a program, you have my blessing to go off and see how much it would cost, the equipment and all kind of stuff like that. So chief basically gave me rein to go talk to vendors and stuff like that. And I was trained jiu-jitsu with some Columbus SWAT guys. One guy's name was Oscar. And we trained jiu-jitsu together at Helson. And I was telling him basically that I was trying to find a way to get a dog. And he was like best friends with Brian Schwartz in Westfield Canine. So he texts Brian Schwartz like right then and there. And then Brian hits me up and he said, hey, we have canine training tomorrow, Tuesday, Storm Dog Tactical. Why don't you come down to OSU and we'll be there training. You can talk to the owner, Mike. And I said, I'll be there. So I showed up. Told Mike basically, DLA needs to figure out their bomb dog situation. Basically, we need to get explosive detection dogs for the base. And I just basically gathering information and stuff, how much a dog costs. I had to build a PowerPoint and presentation. It took years to like basically get what the DOD would need to get a dog on base and stuff like that. And while I was doing that, I was like, I felt pretty like, I was just standing around watching. So I was like, can I do something? I feel like I'm not doing anything here. Can I help out? They're like, well, you can put on the suit if you want. So I was like, yeah, I'll wear the bite suit. So I put on the bite suit and I just fell in love with it. I love being the decoy. Basically, the decoy trains the dog. So basically, as I'm getting bit, like the guys who are like some of the senior guys in Ohio, like, basically like Jim Large from Hilliard, you have Brian Schwartz, Westerville. Like, so it's basically OSU, Hilliard, Westerville, Delaware, all your central Ohio like suburbs were like training with storm dogs. So I was like learning from them. They would teach me how to like improve the dog, how to stimulate them, like how to keep myself safe. We had about 20 to 25 canine teams, and I was taking about 3 bites a piece every Tuesday for like years. So you get like 20 to 25 dogs, that often, you start to learn something. And the obedience side of it was kind of just like a dog's obedience was nothing compared to like how to stimulate them to bite and like catch a dog. Because like a decoy's main job is to keep the dog safe. If a dog's coming in like 20, 30 miles per hour, if you catch it wrong, you can actually break their neck, or you can break their teeth or stun their neck, and they don't want to drive or bite anymore. And these are like $18,000 dogs. Yeah. So you have to be very careful about how you like train it with the dog. So if I take a bite from a high moving dog, fast pace moving dog, I had to implode with it so that his neck doesn't get injured. But also, a lot of like decoys and trainers nowadays, they kind of make it more about themselves. They'll do a bunch of flashy Instagram stuff where they like flip the dog over their head and they're like making the dog inverted and like driving the bite. And it looks cool. It looks great on Instagram, but it's like if you take a dog from like, we want a dog around a 7 or 8, from 1 to 10, animosity and aggression, 10, like all that kind of stuff, like aggression level. You want a canine around like a 7 or 8. He's like, if you're amping a dog up to like a 9 or 10, it's like they're not going to be listening, because they're going to be it's just like Marines, like they get tunnel vision, they get hyper focus, they get auditory exclusion. So when the handler's saying out, well, if you got a dog at 9 or 10, like they're not even hearing you. Yeah. Their eyes roll back like sharks and they're just digging into you. So we try to keep a dog around a 6 or 7 level, so that when the handler says out, the dog comes right off. Yeah. So like my job was always to like, what's best for the handler and the team than for like, the flashy Instagram stuff against a dog. I always care about efficiency, and the dog safety is like my utmost thing. But going back to like Defense Logistics Agency is like, so that's how I got into the canine stuff. I basically showed up every Tuesday, and I was like, I'll wear the suit. And then I just love.
Yeah. I was going to talk about that. So like when, you're going down there, and I mean, a lot of people would say, yeah, they're just letting these, trained dogs attack you. Like a lot of people would say like, that's a little crazy, but like, when did you realize like, holy cow, all this, all the stuff that's going through, but when did you realize like, holy cow, there's something special with me and these dogs, like whether it's like the trust that you have in them, they have in you, you have in them. Like when did it start being like, holy cow, this is, stop being like a job to like a passion, obviously. Like what was the driving force behind that? Because, I would say a lot of people, if you just go out and do that, get in the suits, people, they have people do that. It just doesn't look like a lot of fun. But when did you like look at these dogs and be like, holy shit, they're helping me, or I can help them?
Like when they had a litter of Dutch Malinois puppies, and it was like, I don't know, it was like 5 or something years in, and they gave me Shadow as a thank you for all my hard work decoying, because I was doing all that decoy stuff for Storm Dog for like free, basically. My only thing is like, I would take videos and pictures, I would share them, I'd make an Instagram, and I was just, my thing was like, if I could wear my suit with my logo, that was like payment enough for me, just to market myself. But like they gave me Shadow as a thank you, basically, like for all the hard work and stuff I did with like Storm Dog and stuff like that. And once I got Shadow, like I started training him and like basically taking all the knowledge that I've learned from the senior handlers in Ohio. I was like, I started bringing him with me to canine training. And I was like, I took a box and I made like a whole box with a hole in it, a scent box basically. And I had almost cut my thumb off completely making this box. And I showed them, I made this box, and like, oh yeah. And they gave me basically cotton balls with narcotics in it. It was like a cotton ball soaked in narcotics, but it wasn't actually the real thing. And I was training Shadow at home with these mason jars and like a tennis ball. And I was like basically teaching him how to like find narcotics. And I was doing it for fun. And then I would do the bite pillow and the bite work because I had been doing it for so long with the canine teams. And one day I brought him in, and your dog's pretty fucking good. Like he's actually like he finds narcotics better than most people. Like he does an awesome job. and tracking, searching, biting. He was up there with all the senior dogs, and like, dude, you could make dogs for us. You could get a puppy and sell them for like 18, 20 grand. And I was like, oh, I was like, I realized like at that point, I was like, man, if I could take a dog from like 8 weeks old and turn it into Shadow, I was like, maybe I could make a lot more money and do this for a living. But it was really when I had Shadow as a puppy that it was the other side of it of like, I'm starting to feel like
so how long have you had
a
Shadow?
lot better. He's going to be 11 this August.
How old's Cobra?
She's going to be 10 next January. So she's 9 right now. So 10 and 9.
So if you were to, who's Shadow?
Who's Shadow?
Who's Shadow?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Who is he?
Who's he to me?
Yeah.
He's like my little boy. He's like my firstborn to me. I mean, he's like my best friend. Like, you know, like I said, always said like jiu-jitsu made me happy to be home, but Shadow brought me all the way home.
Yeah, explain that. Like, what?
You know, it's just like I never felt alone anymore. Like I'd be in that apartment and like I didn't like. A Malinois is not going to let you just chill in an apartment. They're like, they're just going to be like staring, like they'll stare a hole through you.
Yeah, I feel like he was looking at that earlier. Like, what the fuck are we doing down here, guys?
Yeah. So he's gonna like I've trained service dogs and other dogs for veterans, obviously throughout the years. And as I tell them, it's like this dog's not gonna let you play video games down the basement.
Yeah,
they're gonna stare a hole through you. They're gonna stack a pile of toys on you. And I wanted to just give him a good life. I wanted to like show him the world. So it's like I started doing a lot more camping trips and camping adventures, and I started making like a dog blog. I actually have a journal where I'd write down dog friendly camping destinations, and I was like me and Shadow's journeys throughout like Kentucky, West Virginia, and all these places. And I just started blogging it, like writing journals about me and him and our trips together. But like, so like my mindset on like, since like doing jiu-jitsu and doing the training with Shadow, and I was talking with some other guys on the jiu-jitsu mat about this. It's like the problem with like a lot of veterans is they don't have a new story to tell. Mm-hmm. And my theory on like dogs and jiu-jitsu and all this kind of stuff is, you know, when guys get out of the military, they go to the bars and they're kind of like, you know, they meet some new people, they meet a girl, and they're kind of like right off the rip, they're like 2 tours Afghanistan. Biggest, like he's like I did this and that, and it's like all military right off the bat, and it's kind of overwhelming for a lot of civilians, and people are like, oh my god, thank you for your service. It's like the last thing you really kind of want to say as a girl that you're trying to date is like, thank you for your service, kind of like putting you into that victim type. As you start telling these Iraq and Afghanistan stories, you know, you kind of relive them. Yeah. So I noticed that every time I would share like Ramadi or Iraq stories or anything like that, I noticed that night I'd kind of be in that like aggression mode or somber mode or something like that. It would affect my personality that night. Mm-hmm. And I always, and my theory was like, you need a new story to tell. It's like, what'd you do last week? He's like, nothing. I mean, I went to work, blah, blah, blah. It's like, when you asked me what I did last week, I was like, when me and Shai went to West Virginia, we went camping. We found this awesome river in Dolly Sods National Park, which I highly recommend. Dolly Sods is amazing. But like my goal became when I got Shadow was like, I need a new story to tell her. Like if someone asked me what I did, I want the last thing to be about the Marine Corps. Yeah. So it's like, what'd you do last month? I went to a jiu-jitsu tournament in Indiana and I did pretty well. Okay. It was like, and then like they asked me, well, what are you going to do? What you got planned for next month? It was like, I was eyeballing this place up in Upper Peninsula. So me and Chad are going to go camping up there and check out the Great Lakes. So like, if you can break the cycle of resharing all the old stories, which are all the old traumas, it's like come up with new experiences. Like, oh, what do you plan on doing like this summer? It's like, well, I'm thinking about trying out archery. And if you get into that, you'd be like, I went to a 3D archery shoot. I did awesome. I met a bunch of other hunters and veterans. We had a great time. Keep pushing yourself to come up with something new to tell. And that is what really started healing me and like my anger problems and all that stuff. Is I got so excited buying all this like hundreds of $1,000s of camping gear, and like I got a Jeep and I just throw Shadow in, and we'd be like, all right, let's go find a new camping destination. Also led to like I couldn't just go to like places with park rangers because they wouldn't let my dog off a leash, and like the dog parks were always like a 1 mile track around the main parking lot, and it sucked. So I had to always find places where it was off the beaten path, where I felt like it was real primitive, because I felt like then it felt like a real adventure. And I felt like really I didn't want park rangers telling me to put a leash on my dog. And like, it always felt like it was like that authoritarian complex. I had like an authoritarian complex.
Right.
I didn't like, so like have anyone of authority to tell me what I was doing with my dog. It was something I always had to overcome as well. So I'd always try to find camping destinations where it was just like me out there with my dog, and then finding really cool places with like waterfalls or like rivers or lakes. And but I told a bunch of other Afghanistan guys and Iraq guys, like if you're having trouble being home, just like, well, what'd you do? Like find something. Like you need to keep finding things to do. That's a better story to tell than yesterday.
Yeah.
And the more you do that, you're going to find yourself actually having a really good time.
So do you think he gave you purpose?
Yeah. I mean, definitely gave me, a goal, especially when I realized, well, what really happened was when I was, I got Shadow, he's about 3 or 4 at this point, basically other canine handlers would come up to me like, hey, my parents got a dog. Can you train them? They're having obedience problems. Or they do have a call out in the city and they'd be like, hey, this is family. They're a really nice family. This dog just needs a little bit of help. So I was doing that for like free. Like I'll just show up and just guys would ask me to help this dog or help their family dogs. And then like people started offering me money because I'd fix their dogs like that. And it was kind of like, because I was so obsessed with Shadow. Like we were so inseparable. I wouldn't even go to family functions if I couldn't bring him.
Yes, I mean, if I think the guys here they're down here to watch. I think that's why I asked you like what he is to use is like there's definitely you both have each other's thoughts in mind. Like you're down here, and I mean just in the hour you're here, I think every time you're talking, you're always checking to make sure he's okay. It was kind of funny. You guys went to the bathroom together, and you have a good point about why that is. I get it because he looks like he's a very he's in a good mood now, but he's actually a trained dog to do some stuff. But I mean, I can see that like the comfort that you guys have for each other. Like all of a sudden, like he hasn't moved from where he went, a few minutes goes by you. Like, and that's why I asked what he was to you. And I feel like, you could see the power of what he means to you, and you can see what he means to you mean to him, obviously. And that has to give you, that's something that you can't, like, how do you equate that? You know what I mean? Because, you have that with like, people struggle. You were hitting it, right? You were hitting the nail on the head when you're talking about, I have it as being like a purpose or an identity, right? Like for a long time, it's hard to get rid of the identity of like you're in the military, but to become an artist, to become all these other kind of things that you're doing, right? It changes your whole mindset. We do want to live in the past, right? Because, sometimes we think that was the best thing we ever had or the best thing we're ever going to accomplish. So how do you, like, what do you think is the power between like you two that's different between human beings, or like how is it different to you?
Well, I mean, like I don't know if anyone like really dives into owning a dog and like giving that, like when I get off work, it's me and him for 2 or 3 hours training, playing, doing stuff like vacations together, all that kind of stuff. If you really dive into any dog breed, it doesn't matter if it's a Malinois or not, like you will see why dogs for what is it now, like 10, 30,000 years they're finding us together with dogs, or 100,000 years they're finding bones in caves. It's like there's no other animal like a dog. And I tell people that when I'm with dog clients, be like, don't forget the magic there is behind a dog. Like if you like dogs, like if I would look at Shadow and I look over there, he'll look over there. There's only a few animals that read eyesight in humans.
Yeah.
So like I think the only other animal is a horse. It reads eyesight. So if I'm looking over here and I look over here, a horse will also look over there. Like, so there's only 2 animals really on this planet that read eye movement in humans because of the connection that we have with them. And like with Shadow, it's like, I couldn't sleep like at all because I had this hyper awareness that I couldn't get over. Like basically I'd go down and I'd leap out of bed and charge like shadows in the corner and stuff like that. Plus.
He's like, come on, Dad. So, you're talking about me.
Yeah. So I know that's what he's getting. But so like when I went to bed when I had him, I wasn't worried about anything. He's like having a little like fire. He's like having a little fire watch. Because I knew in my room, if I went to sleep, if anyone came in that room, he's gonna protect me or he's gonna let me know about it. So like he took away the hyper awareness that I had so that I could relax my body and just go to sleep. Yeah. And that was so relaxing for me finally to like just to like know that I had somebody else in the room with me, and that obviously could also protect me. I have no doubt that Shadow would save me or protect me from anybody. So having that in the room with me was like having a little fire watch, I could sleep peacefully again.
Yeah.
So he gave me like peace of mind and peace of sleep. And so, you know, I feel like having, like he knows that, like he knows how like you can tell, like when he's with me, my tension, my stress is down.
Yeah.
So there has to be something to where the animal is like, but it's also like he only likes me really, like he tolerates other people, but like he's kind of like he's like super vindictive and jealous. So if I like don't pay attention to him sometimes, or like I'm at a family function or I'm with my daughter, he kind of gets grumpy because he's always like, what the fuck? Like
It's just like us, right?
Belgian animals are very vindictive. They'll like they'll move other stuff aside and they'll tear your stuff up because you like, like if you go on vacation for like 2 weeks and you don't bring your dog, like they'll destroy your couch. Like, you know, he's like, I had him once. I went to work and, you know, you're supposed to give like an hour before, an hour after. You're supposed to give them, they need at least an hour a day of physical exertion. And I was just like working so much overtime. And so I couldn't, I screwed him over that day. I gotta go to work, buddy. And I had overtime that night. I came home and he tore a hole through the subfloor in my townhouse in the LC. And literally in the kitchen, I could see to the bottom floor. And he just made a big hole through the kitchen. And I was like, I couldn't even get mad because I was so like impressed by the destruction. I was so shocked because I was like, this is thousands of dollars of damage. And I just sat there.
Damn, I trained you well now.
Yeah, I just sat there by the hole in the ground and I was like, how'd you even bite it? It's flat surface. I was like, and I just remember him coming out of the corner, like he knew he was in trouble. Yeah. He came out of the corner and I just remember his little like mouth here and he like licked my lips. He started like kissing my mouth. So he knew how upset I was. And it only ended up, I think the LC only charged me like $1,300 to fix it, which wasn't that bad for the amount of damage it was. So
when it's I love seeing how when you talk about him, there's a smile on your face and a glow. So do you feel like you get along better with him than you do human beings?
Oh, definitely. For like, I mean, when I'm at my property, it's always like if my buddies come over, they have dogs too. Shadow and Cobra had 2 litters, so I had 20 Belgian Malinois puppies, and I've given them mostly to veterans or law enforcement. Yeah. So when we're at the property, if guys come over, it's usually like 5 to 10 Belgian Malinois running around my property. Yeah. You know, jumping in the river and hanging out.
So you said the answer to that question was yes. So why do you feel so much more comfortable around, you know, Shadow, Cobra, the dogs like than you do human beings?
It's so hard to put into words because they are so present, like ability to play and like throw the ball, frisbee, like be all on top of you. But you don't have to talk. You don't have to continue conversations. You can kind of just be at peace and still active. That's kind of nice. But I mean, they're just so loyal and they're your friend. And not only, but the thing with like having like a dog like a Malinois as a service dog or something like that is that they'll protect you. They'll save your life. If someone were to attack me right now, Shadow would be John Wick. He'd be right there taking care of me. So it's like, not only am I getting like the camaraderie and like someone with me to talk to, I talk to him. Like when I'm on my property by myself, you know, I'm not alone. I talk to him just like I talk to a human, which is why he understands probably his commands so much better. I don't have to use my command words to move him. I can almost be like, get the fuck over there. And then like, I can talk to him like a Marine and he'll listen to me because as much as I communicate with him. But like the fact that you're moving and going camping trips and moving around with a dog that not only can I just hang out and talk with, but also like, it's like a little fire team. Like he's got my back and that's soothing to me. That feels good to know that, like, you know, I like put that into better words is like, you want to go camping, right? Like say you want to go camping, you want to go check out the upper peninsula and you want to check out like, you know, that place up there. You ask your buddies, hey guys, when should we do a camp trip, guys, to go up there to the Great Lakes? They're like, oh, I got work, I got this going on. Well, I camp is this and that. The dog's always ready to go. Hey, Shadow, you want to go camping? He's like, today, right now, I'll hop in that Jeep today. So it's like how many people like to go camping by themselves? Yeah. It's like, hey, it's like people used to think like, it's like, oh, it's kind of weird just to get in my car myself and go camping by myself. But like I take 2 or 3 Belgian Malinois with me. It's like an awesome adventure. Like just me and my dogs running through the wild. It's kind of like, it almost feels like hunter-gatherer times, but I got the toe shoes and I'll be in like in the mountains of West Virginia and I'll be taking off running. I got 3 or 4. I'm sure people are freaked out when they see like, you know, like these wolf-like dogs running through the woods with me and stuff like that. Sometimes I've seen hikers come out of like a trail and obviously my dogs patrol ahead of me. So they're taking turns before I get there, like bears. I don't worry about bears and stuff like that. So like I put them in, what I say is I say patrol. and they go out in front and they'll go like 15, 20 feet ahead of me down the trails. So there's times where they've all froze and I've come around the corner and there's like 2 campers like freaked out because all they saw was like no leather, no equipment, no collar, 3 Belgian Malinois just like staring down the path, probably looking like timber wolves looking at them down the trail.
Like, oh God, we went on the wrong path. I told we weren't supposed to do this. No.
Yeah. I've had that happen several times where I'd be like sleeping in a hammock and then like you just see people frozen on the trail because my dogs are passed out on the trail and they look like just wild dogs out, like wild wolves out there.
So what do you think your life would look like if they hadn't given you a shadow?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think I'd still be missing something. I feel like I would still feel kind of like I don't have that. I don't think I would have gone to camping. I don't think I would have went on those adventures. Like, because the first person to take me camping was another Marine buddy. He's a 1-8 guy.
Yeah.
He actually, my buddy Addison, and he's like, hey, I'm going to be going to Red River Gorge. He's like, do you want to come? And I was like, I've been thinking about camping. I got my dog. I bet he would love to go see the rivers and the mountains. That'd be awesome to take him out there. I just love to see what he does. So that was me and Shadow's first trip together was Red River Gorge. And we were making bacon and egg. We bought some bacon out there. We're frying up bacon. We're hiking these mountains and we're by the Red River Gorge and we're swimming around with the dog. And I was like, I'm going to do this all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm outdoors in nature. I feel free and just run around barefoot with my dog. And it's like, that was a great story to tell.
Yeah.
So like next time I was at jiu-jitsu and I was talking, I was like, dude, check out these pictures. Look what I did with my dog. He did, because at that time Shadow was like fully trained. And I was able to I went down this gorge and I was like, there's all this like fresh wood down here for their fire pit. I wanted to make like a campfire for our pit. And I was like, oh man, I want to go back and forth doing this. And I remember handing Shadow a piece of wood. And I was like, I gave him his Stellan command, his attack command. I was like, Stellan. And he bit the piece of wood. And I was like, and I had trained him to go out. Like Varut is like, go out, go out, go out. So I can send my dog down a field or out away from me. So I sent him up the gorge and he ran up the gorge, dropped. And I said, Los, which is his off command. And I was like, fuck, you fucking did. I was like, you fucking did this shit. And I was like, and I said, and I called him back to a heel. And I was like, Stellan. And I had him take all this wood up this fucking gorge. And I was like, my buddy was there. He's like, this is fucking incredible. He's like, are you kidding me? I was like, well, I taught him this thing and I taught him these other things and I just combined them. So because I mastered the basics with him on the command list, I was able to piece them together and he did something for me. Yeah. And I had him literally carry firewood up this big steep gorge. And I got it done like that. We had all this wood up there.
And he probably didn't even care. He's probably having the day of his life. Yeah, his day of his life.
Oh yeah, well he gets to attack and bite. His favorite thing is to bite. His favorite thing is to bite and attack. So like bite me or a decoy or like doing that kind of stuff. So like having him bite sticks was like second best to like biting a person.
I wish we'd planned this better. We could have like Josh put on the bite suit and
I wish I would have brought it.
Yeah, God, that would have been so much. Or my
I don't know why I didn't.
Or my dad maybe like put my dad on there. He's getting old though. Like, yeah. My dog already does it to Josh. I mean, like we might have to turn over our 2 dogs for you just to get like remedial training. They have no idea that he's down here. Like, we should like let him go up there and be like, hey, I'm gonna straighten these idiots out upstairs.
Well, my favorite thing is when people are like, oh, these dogs are dumb, they're idiots, they can't listen, and then first class I make them heel, sit, and stay, and they're like.
Well, I remember meeting him. Like I remember meeting him at the first time at OPA. Like when you brought him in, and like they both were sitting there, and like I'm not intimidated by him because I know like obviously people have been trained. Like people aren't just gonna be wandering around with dogs like that. But just the crazy thing is, I remember they're both sitting there, and there's like, and you could see people do react differently to him. Like some people are like thrown off by it a little bit, but then like I remember you ordered like a bunch of cheeseburgers, and I'm like, who are those for? Like for the dogs, and I'm like, these dogs have the best life in the world. You know what I mean? They're getting. They're getting taken, and they were just like the nicest. They were like more behaved than like children.
When I go out,
I mean, honestly,
when I go out, like so, Shadow, like he knows what I'm on. Like if I were to teach a class around, there are other dogs here. If I was to teach a class, he goes into a training mode where he's like, oh, well, we're training dogs now. If I'm here hanging out, he's kind of like, whatever. Yeah. But if I go out, it's like being able to switch. The mindset is all based off like. Whatever situational environment you put them in, like they know the difference and they can lock in. So it's like your mannerisms when training a dog are very important. Yeah. So like if I were to stem him up to bite somebody, I would put him into a heel, I'd grab my collar and I would start giving him command words. there's mannerisms involved that stem him to go. Like if I were to say attack man now, he'd be like, where's like a ball?
Yeah.
But if I were to grab him from the heel and grab him by the back of his collar, or I was to like give him certain words, like I can stem him up to attack whoever I want. But like same thing with environments. If I'm going out to festivals, fairs, public events, and like that, he knows throughout repetition and the commitment and consistency and control. But that's why I say like commitment, consistency, and control. The repetition and consistency of like what I expect on my dogs, as long as you keep that standard. Yeah, as long as you keep that standard, like they know what's expected of them. It's like taking a dog in like Scotland or Ireland, and like they go out to the field to herd the sheep.
Yeah,
you see how amazing they are in those videos. Like they know as soon as they hit that field what to do with that sheep. They've done it so many times that it's now robotic to them. It's no different than any other civilian dog or like house dog or shadow. It's like when I go out to public, he knows like right now he's like, I'm here. I have to sit here now and wait. But there's a give and take to that relationship. The other relationship is that he knows that since I brought him here and he's had to lay here for 3 or 4 hours, we're going to go to the park after this, either before or after, an hour before, an hour after. I have to pay that time back to him. So I have to he's going to get his physical exertion time after this 100% of the time. Because it's like, that'd be selfish of me to expect him to like let me enjoy a beer on a patio and then not take him to get his personal time. And I think a lot of people don't realize, like, if you're going to do all this like patio stuff or festival work, or you're going to make a dog do, like, don't fuck them over by not giving them their time, because they have like whatever they experience in this world is off you, is based on you. So they have a life on this planet too. So you need to make sure that you're showing them just as much of a good time as they're giving you.
I feel like you're making me feel like a bad dog dad or whatever.
Exactly what I was doing.
I mean, wow, you're just like, wow, I'm about to reevaluate how I've been screwing. No, I get it. I think no, I mean, but I think it takes, like I said before, like no joke aside, I think it takes to have a dog like that, it takes a huge amount of commitment. And I think it takes a huge amount of, and I have it that a lot of people don't. It's a unique bond, right? Like I think that I really, I think there's something different between him and other dogs and between like me and you. And it's not a, make wrong or anything like that. But I just, it's amazing to see you guys work together and just be, it's like he's like your shadow. Like, I mean, for lack of better words, I mean, not to be crazy about it, but like, so I could talk about shadow all day and the dog stuff, but like, so how do you think, we'll talk about, not just the training part of dogs, but like, dogs now, you're obviously around, training for the canine that you're doing, the type of stuff you're doing for law enforcement, for like, home protection, but like you obviously have been around a lot of veterans with dogs. What do you think is different about that type of therapy? We were talking about some of our friends up at Tim up in would work with with sock hands, working with horses. Like, what do you think is the unique, like what's the therapeutic value you see for with the warrior class, with veterans having relationships with dogs? And like, you have different levels of dogs, like yours, but just like a normal I don't want to say lap dog, but just a dog that service dog, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I think the companionship is like having someone that's like, you know what, I want to go out. I just want to go out and get a beer or an ice cream, and I don't want to go by myself because I don't want to be the weirdo vet sitting at the bar stool by myself. Because like we all have jobs, we all have things we got to do, or maybe you're having trouble in a small town having people to like go out and hang out with. A dog gives you that reason. I'm gonna take my dog for a walk, and we're just gonna go get an ice cream together, and then I'm gonna go get a beer. Yeah. Or like it gives you a reason to go out and get out in the public and not stay stuck in your house, getting in that loop of like playing video games nonstop, which are usually probably Call of Duty or some wartime game where you're going to relive in that trauma or experience. A dog is like, I'm going to take my dog, we're going to get a beer together. That gets you out of the house. And then people, girls or people will come to you, hey man, that's a beautiful dog. What's his name? And then now you're talking with people, you're sharing your dog, and you don't necessarily have to talk about your military experience. You could just be like, yeah, this is Shadow. He's a Belgian Malinois. We're thinking about going camping next week. I mean, you got any recommendations? Oh yeah. They could share their insight and thought on that. The other thing is it's just like, being at home. It's like, I know like people that aren't even veterans that would like, they'll plan a whole dinner around their dog. Like they'll be like, hey, you know what? I want to watch a movie tonight. We'll make a really great dinner, and they'll buy their dog a steak. And, to them, that's companionship for them. They don't feel lonely because they're not watching a movie by themselves. They're not making dinner for themselves. They're sharing a meal with their dog. And, say what you will about those people where that still sounds lonely to you, but to them, it's everything. They have, their dogs are everything to them because they don't like people. Some people, like sexual assault survivors who get dogs for that therapeutic reasons, they don't fucking want to be around people. They don't trust people. They have a fear of people. So they have their dog where it allows them to have a nice dinner with somebody or go out and see the world, where they can go camping with their dog and with a giant cane corso or somebody that makes them feel safe. And, I think that's beautiful that they have someone to talk to and lean on. I just feel like the history of dogs is it's incredible. Yeah. Like the fact that like I said before, it's like there's no other animal on this planet that like does all the job. That can find bombs us, narcotics, they can find cancer, they can seizure patients. There's so many things that they do for us. And not only that, it's like you can't pick up and carry a cat around like you do a dog. You know what I mean? Because it's like a cat will still call you after 10
we have to be careful because Josh is a cat guy. He's getting a little upset over there. He's feeling attacked, but
you know what I mean? I know. And I love cats too. I love all animals. I love cats too. But it's just like, I just like the way they look at you and the way they emotionally connect with you. I challenge you to find another animal besides maybe a horse. I think a horse does that too. Yeah. There's a lot of instances of horses, but again, they have the same 30, 40, 50,000 years of like connection with humans, fighting in war, being our transportation. And look at Alexander the Great and his horse, he's named a whole city after that horse. And it was his best friend. Yeah. So there's something about veterans going all the way back to Alexander the Great. And before that, where he had a dog, he had a Molossus or something like that, Alexander the Great. And what is about veterans that just attach themselves to these animals? Like Alexander the Great was obsessed with his dog and his horse. Like that was like his main love in this world. Yeah. And it's like, I feel like because you'll never find someone more loyal than a dog. Like it's hard to find someone that will be there. Like how many friends you have that will stand toe to toe with a bear for you? Yeah. You know what I mean?
I don't think my dogs will do that, but you may be in a small, minority about that, but just talking to you, the interesting thing I think about is I like to make jokes about my dog and they're pain in the ass, so they are. But the one thing I will tell you is when you talked about the hypervigilance, right? So I know at minimum that if someone is coming in the house and not supposed to be here, that my dogs are gonna
notify.
The dog is gonna so it is funny that you say that and think about that, because we sometimes we got a lot of moving pieces here in my house. So if my wife leaves, usually we want to board the dogs, to get them, to get out of it. So it is interesting that my son, just recently did that. My youngest son was here with him. He was like, oh my gosh, our first, I didn't sleep so well because our first line of defense is not, it's not here. Because if anyone comes to the house, they're going to let you know. So that is a huge thing for a companionship. And we have a huge organization here, VCAS up in Delaware. We're not even talking about service dogs, not even training trained dogs like yours, but they will pair up dogs with veterans, just like you said before. And I never even thought about that. You said that is when I am home and I'm sleeping, I am more relaxed because I know they're going to alert me if anything's off. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I've never really looked at them in that way and really thought about that. Holy shit. That makes total sense. When they're not here,
if you don't train a dog, what does a dog resort to? Their number one job is sentry. So if you put a dog in a backyard, they're they want to have a job. They want to feel useful. They're going to create a job for themselves. And the number one job is sentry. So if you don't teach them anything, they're gonna I'm gonna feel useful in this family. I want to feel like I'm a part of it. So it's your dog.
It doesn't matter if you ever to cut the sound out here at some point. It's they gotta let everybody know that they're here. Everyone has to come out and do that. But I'm trying to figure out what my dogs, because I like one more that we won't get into that, but they're just I'm glad we had the conversation about that, because that is a huge thing for me, because I find myself too, if I travel somewhere that I don't feel as comfortable sleeping, I'm always why do I feel so weird? Maybe it is that hypervigilance. I know that there's nobody coming in this house without them warning to give me that I don't know what they're going to do after that. They're not trained like
Gives me a chance to get to my gun, right?
Yeah, if exactly. Bark, I get a chance to do whatever you got to do. So there's that thing about, but the companionship is there's those memes going around right now, or videos where they have the kid and it's Theo Vaughn is and all this kind of stuff. Have you seen these yet? As they're babies, and he's just talking about dogs, right? He was there's nothing better than a dog that just a strange dog that just walks up to you and lets you pet it.
Yeah.
Like you can pet it. He's like, there's nothing but he just goes in this hole, but it's all babies. Like they have him like kid. And I'm like, and now talk about that is something like when they have that trust, like a dog to do that. And like, cause I have like dogs that have no like sense of self, man. They don't care. Like they'll come to you. They'll chew a hole in the ground and come up here and lick you on the face. They'll, come on they'll come and try to get petted 30 times. You know what I mean? It's just,
I just think I told other dog clients and like police officers, I'm like again with like the new canine handlers, I'd be like, don't forget the magic of this. You're wielding a beast. You're wielding a wolf at the end of a leash. It's like people are all crazy about Harry Potter and fucking owls. I would choose Shadow in Hogwarts over any fucking owl any day, because they're like, that school's all fucked up and having violence and shit. It's like, would you rather have Shadow, a wolf beside you, than a owl delivering mail? I was like, if there were no dogs in the world and I had the only Shadow, you'd be like, this guy wields a wolf at the end of a leash. I think we forget the magic. It's like because they're so common, they're everywhere. This wolf will protect your children, find narcotics, find missing suspects. He'll love you at the end of the day. Like he could easily kill everyone in this room, but he won't. Like he works for us. He'll go to war with us. Like if we went to Iraq together, I brought Shadow, he would find missing. If I train him on bombs, he'd find explosives to save our lives. It's like, that's way better than the owl in Harry Potter that didn't do shit.
I love that
I know I'm just shitting on.
I can tell you, I've never seen more than like 30 seconds of any Harry Potter thing. Like I don't even know what I don't even know what he's talking about. Like I generally like to pride myself and I know what people are talking about, but I'm like, I have no idea what Sean's talking about. Hogwarts. I don't know about this owl he's talking about.
This always goes over the best during my canine training obedience classes. That joke always goes over the best because all these like girls watch Harry Potter. I'm like, what's cooler, your Great Dane or an owl? Because
I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? What's Hogwarts? I don't know. I really.
So it's like
went over my head. I'm like,
a mystical wizards that have like owls.
An owl's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know. I've never seen this owl. So we're burning through time like I thought we would, but like I feel like we talked about your passion. Do you want to talk about your current role as a police officer? Anything you want to talk about being a police officer?
Oh yeah, I mean,
I feel like we could talk about the dogs all day long. Not in a bad way. I don't mean that in a bad way, but I feel like that's more of a passion than you being a police officer. If I'm guessing,
I'm very blessed. I work for the city of Bexley. I'm a Bexley police officer, and they've been amazing to me. And I really love the culture, the atmosphere there. So it's nice to be part of an organization that supports us. And the cool thing about Bexley is like we always have dogs in our police department. Like we have like 3 to 4 dogs usually roaming in our police department. So I love how it was like meant to be, because when I showed up for the interview, they had like, they had a German Shepherd just wandering the hallways, and now we have a new puppy German Shepherd running around, and these aren't even canines. These are just like, we have an animal control, and we have and we have now a new community dog that they found and rescued a litter of puppies in the alley. So now they decided just to make one of them a community dog. But like you'll be in roll call and there'll just be like 3 or 4 dogs running up with balls and throwing it. I was like, this is perfect. This is like where I'm meant to be.
I got to say, man, I'm like, I don't mean to cut you off, but like if you can't see it on the camera, I don't know if they can, but like whenever you talk about dogs, it's like your whole demeanor changes. And I think that's amazing, man. I think that's why it's been great talking to you about that, because like you're like that when you said about the little German Shepherd puppy, like your like eyes are like, some people be like, oh gosh, you can't have these dogs in here. Like, you know what I mean? But with the police, policing right now, do you feel like this is your calling now? This is what you're doing for a little bit? Where do you still find your passion? If Maltech could jump up, or would you do that, or rather be a police officer? Makes sense.
I mean, I'd be a lot happy doing Maltech. Like if I can, I have that 6 acres in Delaware on the Dublin-Scioto River there. I'm trying to get a construction loan going. I'd love to build a boarding kennel there and train facility there. If that provided enough income and stability for me to leave law enforcement, I'd probably consider it. Just because, like you said, how happy training dogs make me. I feel like I'd be happy every day doing that. We tried to get take over. We tried to do a training facility in Hilliard actually recently. And the city just wanted I think it was they wanted a $20,000 feasment study done just to because it was I guess the building we wanted was the way they vendor them, the way what they're allowed to sell in those areas. and they wanted a $20,000 fees study just to say that for selling animal, like for training animals and boarding dogs. And that $20,000 kind of canked the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's like trying to find a building and a place where we want to set up Maltac for boarding in my training facility has been kind of a problem. And like we were trying to build a facility on my 6 acres, and it's just like, you know, we were supposed to launch in 2020 and literally COVID happened. We were going to be up that like June or July, like construction was going to be starting and done. And then COVID happened. So it froze everything, all the SBA loans. And then we were going to do it again in 2022. And then Ukraine happened and all the like material and steel and wood prices went through the roof. So literally I would have had like a 10,000 square foot training facility in Delaware if it wouldn't have been for like COVID, Ukraine, and all these, like obviously now tariffs and interest rates are kind of high right now. But like, if I got to, I'm going to build my house here soon on that property. And then I'm gonna get a nice 40 by 40, 30 by 40 pole barn. And it seems like my passion lately has been more training veterans. Like I really enjoy like working with service dogs and veterans, kind of what Shadow's done for me. I still also love the whole family element and aspect. I'm still training canines with, I've been decoying a little bit with Columbus Police, decoying for CPD and stuff. But like working with families, veterans has been like, they have the same passion as me. Like you see like a person with their dog, and they have the same enthusiastic, you know, attitude as I do. And I enjoy that, you know, especially with veterans when I see them get their dog and for the first time, and, you know, they see them like listening to them and obeying all their commands after our training session. And it's just like, you guys can go anywhere now. He's like, what are you guys going to do? And they're like, I'm going to go somewhere. I was like, and I get to now offer them my favorite camping destinations. Like try Dolly Sods first, go camping. Go out there in the wilderness with your dog and tell me what you think when you get back. And it's always been super positive. Yeah.
So we're approaching the couple hour mark. So just a couple more questions and I just wanted to run by you. So Evelyn's your daughter.
Yes.
So you look at Evelyn now, like she's seen you as I mean, she doesn't know you, but like, you know, you've had a life as a Marine, a police officer, you know, small, you know, let's say a small business owner, a passion for the dogs. What do you hope she learns from if she looks at her dad, and what do you hope she learns about you?
I actually, since she's a baby, I've written her every year on her birthday. I write her a letter, like a handwritten letter, and I save them. So I have like 4 letters right now in my gun safe, and every year, and I got to write one now here soon for her 5th birthday here in May. So I write her a letter every year, just like, what am I doing? What was my experience with her? And I just write them down because I'm not gonna remember in like 18 years, right? I'm gonna give it to her on her 18th birthday. I'll give her like 18 letters, and like it's gonna be, I'll probably forget everything I wrote on those things, and I probably won't even know what I'm talking about. So that's why I wrote them down, because I don't know where my brain's gonna be at by then, you know. Yeah. And I remember like one of the first letters I wrote her, I was like, I just really hope you stay wild and free. I hope you stay adventurous and wild, and don't be controlled by anybody. And I just hope you like keep that like magical, mystical feeling in the world. You know, like when you're a kid and Halloween come around, fall time, and it's like it felt like there's magic in the air. I don't know about you, but for Halloween and like when the leaves are falling, fall time is my favorite time of the year. And it feels like the air feels more magical. Like it's kind of like waking up on Christmas, coming downstairs, and Christmas felt different as a kid. And it's kind of like that magic when you get to a new camping destination and you see like the air's just right. It almost feels like it's going to rain or be cloudy, and you set off on that path with your dogs and they run out ahead of you. And I remember writing her about that, and I was like, I just hope you stay wild and free, and you don't take life too seriously. I hope she can still see like don't let a career field like make you too adulty, I guess.
Yeah. So do you see yourself as wild and free now?
Yeah, I'm trying to get back to it. Yeah. I think I need to get back. I think I've been hitting law enforcement a little too hard. I've been trying to. I feel like I've been in the foundation building stage with my daughter and my land. I'm like kind of hyper focused on getting that house built, but then I'm looking forward to like taking my daughter camping for the first time, because I've been waiting, like chomping at the bits to like, I've been a new father. So it's like, I really want to take her on her first camping trip, like kind of like what I've been doing. I always did with Shadow, and I want her to feel what it's like to hit the trail for the first time, So I'm like looking forward to that.
So I didn't want to ask this question, but I think I am. So what do you see your life looking like with, Shadow's getting a little bit older? What does life look like without Shadow? Is that something to think about as he's getting older?
Yeah, unfortunately, I try not to think about it too much. It gets kind of emotional for me. I know that's one of those things.
I didn't mean to drop a bomb on you.
No, I mean, I've been thinking about it a lot lately. I mean, not lately, just because like I think this year is the first time where it's like I've thrown the ball too much and he's laid out for a day. Like I've definitely, especially with Cobra, my female, she's having a hard time jumping in the truck. And I'm now seeing he was always like he's like a Marine. He was like, I seen, he was like this badass dog. The canine team's nickname for him was Satan, like, because he's just such a jerk and he's such a hard hitting biter. And to see him go from that to be, like having to take a day off after just throwing the ball for too long, it's like you start thinking about that kind of stuff. And, I'm definitely going to be like, I want to get another female Dutchie, and I want to train her next to her and like Shadow and Cobra, because as Shadow and Cobra get older, I kind of want to share the grief with that other dog.
Yeah.
So if I feel like if I get another Dutchie, a female Dutchie or something like that, and I can train her or him next to Shadow and Cobra, and as they get older and I have to say goodbye, I think it'd be nice to share in that grief with them, that dog. Yeah. So I think that's kind of what lately I thought would be the tactically best way for me to handle like losing him, would be able to share that grief with another dog that he got to train. Like he'll have a hand in training.
Like sort of have like a piece of them with a new dog. Yeah, it makes complete sense.
Yeah. So I feel like, some people will have a dog that passes away and they'll be like, well, I don't want to replace them. And it's like, it's not replacing them. Like if like me, I'm a dog person. I need to have dogs in my life. Like I'm meant to be more around dogs than I am around people. I know that for a fact, and I'm not replacing them. I'm giving this other dog an amazing life and experience with me.
Yeah.
So like my mindset's like I know I need to have dogs with me for my own sanity. And it's like, I want someone that knew Shadow or someone that I can have to like get through that trauma of losing him. I know I'm going to need someone like that to like take on adventures with, or like share that experience with. And I tell most guys, if you had a dog that passed away, he's like, there's nothing wrong with sharing that amazing life you gave that dog and giving another dog to have that opportunity and privilege to like, have an amazing life with you. You're just giving another dog an amazing chance at life. If you're one of those good dog owners that really spoil their dogs, then you should give that amazing opportunity to another dog, because you need that dog just as much as they need you. Yeah. And it's like, if that makes you happy, you need to get that other dog. That way you can still, move with your pack,
Yeah. So. Because I feel like he's a special dog. I mean, I think he's kind of just the stories you told me kind of kickstarted your transformation. Yeah. Like you said, brought you back home. I'm glad he found you and you found him. That's how the world works. Yeah. Glad it worked out for you. So just one more question. We'll close it down unless you got something else to talk to, like mental health. We could talk about that. Like, so, what's one thing that with, the warrior class, veterans, first responders, police officers, what is the one thing in mental health that, with the suicide epidemic we're seeing, what's one thing that you think needs to be changed, in the military, police departments, first responders, organizations?
Well, I have a few things about that. I mean, one is I don't know how to say, like the bureaucracy of like the programs for vets getting dogs. It's so like, well, I have vets come up to me all the time like, hey, how do I get a service dog? What's the paperwork I need? Who do I need to see? There's no real clear path, or like omnidomicis, you rate that dog. Like a lot of vets go to their like, how do I get certified to have a service dog where I can take them everywhere? Is there like a form I got to file out? Do I got to go to VA Gov? Like, how do I get a legit service dog? Because I don't want to do it. Like a lot of guys are like trying to do it the legit way. Mm-hmm. I want a dog. I need a dog in my life. But it's like, there's no clear cut paperwork or answer from the VA or, state of Ohio or anything like that. I would love to work with someone where they could basically dummy proof it. Like basically like, this is like this. You're a veteran. This is what you rate, and you just see green check marks light up and it says, "Yep, you're clear to have a dog." Print it out, take that to an organization, be like, "Here I am. I rate this right." I got pushed around and shoved around by a lot of places, and like going to the VA, and they saying I have anger and anxiety and stuff like that. And I was like, I mean, do I get a dog? I mean, how do I do this? And they're like, well, I can't do that. I'm talking to a VA psychiatrist. They're like, well, I can't sign off on that because I'm seeing you today, but you can go talk to these people. And a lot of people would be like, well, I can't sign off on this paperwork until I see you for 13 visits or 10 visits, $350 a piece. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then it's like, well, I have to evaluate you, see you. And a lot of infantry vets for me, it was kind of like, the fuck good are you then? It's like, I don't need you to fucking hear my stories and judge me. Like, you know, you get angry just talking about it, like going to talk to these people. I just want a dog. I don't need to fucking talk to you. And I called this, I went to see this one, the VA hooked up this like meeting with this person, and she was like for like sleep disorder and like anger or whatever. And I was like, oh, so you work for an organization, so you can sign off on me having a legit service dog? This is early, way ago, a long time ago. And she's like, well, I can't. And I was like, well, and I went off again. I was like, it was like, what the fuck is like, and I basically ranted the way I did with you. And she's like, call this number. It's like, man, it was like Service Dogs of America, or it was some place down in like, I think it was Mississippi. I think it was Service Dogs of America. I can't remember. And I called down there, and I was like, this like Southern lady. And I was talking to her, and she was really nice. And she was like, what the fuck do I have to do to make this legit? And she was like, he's like, oh, baby dog, you got everything you need. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, we'll hook you up with a dog and we'll give you classes, but it sounds like you're already a dog trainer. It sounds like you can train a dog pretty good. And I was like, oh yeah. She's like, you go see doctors, right? For the VA? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you have a disabled veteran card, you know, that little card they give us. He's like, you have a card, right? He's like, yeah, that's all you need. That's a letter from a doctor, right? Because like, you see the VA, you get your disability rating 60, 70, 80%, 90%, 100%, whatever it is. It's like you've gone to see doctors for that. That's your letter. So it's kind of like the way she put it in terms is like, he's like, you have anger, anxiety, PTSD, whatever you got. Is like, you are a disabled veteran. That is your medical documentation to get a service dog. Mm-hmm. The only thing you have to do is to make sure the dog is well trained, is trained, doesn't bark at kids running around the restaurants, doesn't bite people, doesn't defecate inside a restaurant. And even if your service dog does defecate in a restaurant or barks at people on a plane, that just gives the owner the right to ask you to leave. So if if Shadow were to poop in Opa's, Gentry could be like, hey, you need to leave. Oh. That it doesn't negate the fact that it's a service dog. You just had a day where you fucked up and now you got to go. So a lot of those things like, oh, well, what do I need to do? Is like, well, you just need to make sure your dog meets these parameters where can they sit in a restaurant at your feet without tracking, running and screaming kittens? Mm-hmm. Are they peeing in the store? Are they defecating and all this kind of stuff? And that's really the only check in the boxes you got to meet to have a service dog. But I wish there was a program with the government where they could streamline it and set these parameters more clear for veterans, because I feel like a lot of veterans are lost in the process on how to officially get their dog and stuff like that. The other thing with like the Marine Corps, when I was in, they didn't have any like de-escalation or like basic cool down period for a veteran getting out. I mean, I was with my infantry unit, and then they're basically like, hey, you're fapped out to Stone Bay Rifle Range. Yeah. So yeah. And then the next day I never saw my dudes again. So, and that was kind of hard, just being in Stone Bay with that. My dudes were all training and getting ready to go to Afghanistan. And I was like literally the next day I'm by myself. Yeah. So like, and even after Stone Bay, there was like, hey, your date's here. Did you get all your stamps on your paper? Good. All right. See ya. Is like maybe like if there was like a way. I mean, I bet they're better at it now. I mean, this is back. I got out in 2010, so I don't know what they're doing now. But like, there's really no military or government cool down period for a veteran who's gotten back for combat tours or just the military period. Like, there's a lot of guys who go through a lot of hard stuff in the military, anyways. Like, I feel like if they can be honest with themselves, like, are you different at home? Are you like having these anger outbursts? He's like, are you about to create a situation where you're going to catch a charge or like OVI or anything, fighting OVI, something like that? It's like, if you notice yourself being irritated, it's like, okay, well, I need to start getting into something. Like I need to go talk to someone, or two, I need to start doing jiu-jitsu, archery, dog training, get a dog, but like all of that stuff right there is just saying is like, are you sitting in your own head in your apartment and not doing nothing? Yeah. Are you basically, because if you're like a kind of guy that joined the military in the first place, you're probably a pretty active person. And after you get out of the military, it's like, do you find yourself sitting in your house or apartment lonely by yourself? It's like, well, if you check that box, you already got a big fucking problem, because you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, the thing about the dogs, no one's ever talked about that, but yeah, the more is like I've shared before, a couple of years ago, getting close to a couple of years ago, going to Save a Warrior and finding an alternate way to deal with, PTS. And and dealing with those problems we're having, you start looking into all these other ways. I definitely have heard stories, like that before about getting service dogs, how difficult it is, but, maybe there needs to be more focus on like, training service dogs instead of, going to therapy. I've seen like, I couldn't, you can't deny just watching you and Shadow. I've seen you with Cobra and Shadow. So like it works, right? So I love that perspective, and thanks for sharing that with us.
There's the thing about the service dog is like, it's so like, even like dog supplements and stuff like that, or just like you see all the different crazy training equipment. I use leather collar, leather leash. I don't need like all the other crazy stuff. The biggest thing is like, there's no FA, what are the food guidelines? There's nothing that like sets parameters for dogs. It's still the wild, wild west out there. So even like service dog organizations, you got someone providing service dogs, and that dog is hot trash. Like, going to the right people and getting the right training. It doesn't matter like if they have a big name, but like what quality of dog are they putting out, and how are they pairing the dog with the veteran? Like, are they giving a Belgian Mal to a veteran that likes to like be inside and play video games and just needs like maybe a different kind of dog with them? I always tell people, if you're going to get a dog, match that breed to your personality.
Yeah.
Me, I match with a Belgian Malinois is the way I am. But like other veterans matches with like, I got my one buddy I know at DOD, he got a Norwegian elk hound, and it's just the calmest, chillest dog ever. Yeah. It's awesome. My one buddy got an English bulldog, but I told him, like, match that breed to your personality, and they do amazing together. Because if you want to be chill, get a chill dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't get a husky because you like the way they look. If you're more of a pug guy, get a pug guy.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And
if you're a cat guy like Josh, get a cat. It's you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, but then when you go to like some of these service dog sites, just make sure like, do they have videos? Like, have you talked to the veteran? Like, talk to the veterans that went to those organizations, meet that. Like, don't pull the trigger on an organization unless you've seen the videos or talk to vets on those sites where you're like, hey, how are you and your dog doing? What would you say about this organization? Is it good? Is it good quality? Like, get the feedback before you pull the trigger. It's the same thing. Like, I was talking to the doctor, I think it was Dr. Macro, OSU veterinarian, and we were talking about like, I was like, what kind of supplements can I give my dog that extends his longevity? And I was like, should I get these? Where were they? People pouring on their food recently. It was like, what's that?
Cosequin.
What is it?
Cosequin.
It was like that powder. It's not curry. It's like
creatine.
I'm trying to think of that powder. That it's like a yellow kind of powder that's supposed to be good for your turmeric. I think it was like turmeric and like turmeric powder and like fish oils and stuff like that. And I was like, should I get these pills for Shadow? And she's like, he'll piss it out in like an hour. He's like, you're not going to give a high enough dose where it's going to stay in their body to do any good. So like the only really studies they have is with fish oil, maybe for joint lubrication and health. But all these other supplements you see at other like on the websites, like it's all just like $80 for a pill bottle that they're going to piss out because they drink so much water. It's going to you're just wasting your money.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, because I was looking in, I was talking to her, I was talking about like maybe getting like a pool, like one of those treadmill pools for like rehabilitation, to like work older senior dogs in pools. But I thought I wanted to like, how do I keep older dogs more healthy? And she was like, well, if you have a pool in your backyard, you technically are allowed to say that you're a certified water therapy specialist, and you could say that without being sued. And I was like, what? I was like, so I can just put a pool in my backyard and I'll be a certified water specialist? And she's like, yeah, pretty much. And I was like, so what's the difference between you, the guys? He's like, well, our vet students at OSU train anatomy, and we take x-rays. We can see the torn muscles on video. Like they're trained in like biology and anatomy of the dog. So if you were to put a dog with a torn shoulder in the pool on a treadmill and start like making them walk, you'll tear the muscle more because of the way the injury is. We know that because we have the science and we can see what's going on with the dog. If you were just to try to train injury out of a dog and not know like the data inside it, you would actually make the injuries worse.
Yeah.
But anyone can, like, it's like kind of like me. I can say I'm a master dog trainer. Cool. It's like I see all these people saying they're master dog trainers, but can you train a dog?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? I just say I'm a dog trainer, but like I know tons of people that say they're master dog trainers, and that like anyone can give themselves a title master, and they're not wrong because there's no like government standard where they say this and that to meet that requirement. Anyone can say it. Same thing with supplements, the water therapy stuff, dog equipment. It's kind of like there's no regulations on that kind of stuff. So I'd say with veterans, be careful what you buy for your dog, be careful what you get into, because the best thing to do is talk to other veterans who are not going to bullshit you and find out what's going to be best for you going forward.
Right. Well, cool. We'll give one last plug before we close it up for Maltech K9. We have a little slide for you to put up there, talk about. So there's Sean. There's Shadow on the left, right? Is that all Shadow?
Oh, no. That's
we got
Cobra on the left.
Yeah.
She's on the 11 plus years one. That's Shadow flying and biting me on the arm. That was a cat we had. We used cats to distract the dogs.
I did that for Josh, just so he didn't feel left out. As a
That's
cat thing,
me at Super System. I trained at Dublin Super System. BJ Nelson, he's a Marine Corps infantry veteran too. He built the Dublin gym. Yeah. So he did Afghanistan and all that stuff too. He's a great veteran to go talk to and learn jiu-jitsu from. Yeah, but just check out if you have any questions about dog training. I've seen Sean. I could firsthand tell you the dogs, Shadow and Cobra are some of the most behaved dogs I've ever seen. And we'll look them up at maltechk9.com. We'll go ahead and before I close it out, I just want to thank you for coming on. Love seeing the passion. I've been looking forward to having you come on. We had to reschedule once, but I'm glad you were able to came in. And I kind of knew it was funny. I was going to reach out and ask you if you were going to bring one of the dogs, but I kind of was like, he's going to have to bring one of them, right? I'm glad you did. I'm glad I got to see Shadow a little bit over there. I don't know what he's doing right now. He's over there hanging out. But did want to thank you for, obviously we didn't talk a lot about it, but thank you for your service to the community of Bexley. Thank you for your service in the Marine Corps. Thank you for coming in and sharing your story. Yeah, I hope I didn't ramble too much. Oh, no, it was awesome, man. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it at all. So we're gonna close it out tonight as we always do. Tonight we're gonna honor a service member who unfortunately took their life. Tonight we're gonna honor U.S. Army Specialist Dallin Ross State, 26. Dallin took his life on June 11th, 2017 at his home in Lime, Ohio. Dallin was born on March 27th, 1991 in Lime, Ohio. After graduating from high school in 2004, he enlisted in the United States Army Reserves and was assigned to the 304th Engineer Company in Lime, Ohio. Dallin loved karaoke with his sister Cammie and spending time singing with his friends. He had a passion for all things tech, and he loved Star Wars and Marvel. Dallin was a very good artist and loved to draw. His pride as a soldier was only equaled by his passion as a warrior. Dallin loved to bowl with his family and was an avid gun collector. He was always prepared and ready for anything. He was a huge Ohio State Buckeyes fan and loved to research and debate. Dallin loved life and enjoyed spending time with those in it, especially his girlfriend Taylor, who was the love of his life. Dallin is survived by his father and stepmother Todd and Julie, mother and stepfather Kathy, Joe, and Pete, girlfriend Taylor, brothers Dustin, Donovan, and Damian, sisters Carrie, Cameron, Allison, and Brooke, maternal grandparents Roger and Kathy, paternal grandparents Louie and Judy, and numerous other relatives and friends. And please, if you or anyone is considering suicide, please contact the Veterans Crisis Hotline at 988, or you can call 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or you can text 838-255 or chat online at veteranscrisisline.net/chat. We'll end it with a quote here. I was trying to look for some dog quotes. There's quotes about everything. I don't know if there's more quotes about Marines or about dogs. So I was choosing. So yeah, there's a lot of good quotes from. So this is from Gene Hill. It says, "Nobody can fully understand the meaning of love unless he's owned a dog. A dog can show you more honest affection with the flick of his tail than a man can gather through a lifetime of handshakes." So thank you for what you do. Again, thank you for bringing your best friend over here so we can hang out with a little bit. And thank you for sharing your story. We really appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thanks, man. Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. We'll give you a hug when we get off there. We got some other stuff for you. So we'll see everybody. Actually, we're going to have a quick turnaround. We'll see everybody next week. See you guys next week. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.